what's going on.
Well, I think with that we should be live. Just, if everything goes
we're
well,
live.
we should be live. Yes, we're live. We're live, and we're doing another super special live stream. I like to say special twice because usually don't get a lot of cool people around to get to talk to them for a long period of time. But my luck is Tom is here and he is trapped in his house because he's under lockdown and he can't leave and he has to talk to us about his current project, lucid dreaming. And if you haven't realized from our backgrounds,
we should put some more logos. We need more logos.
Yeah. It's like we're gonna talk about lucid dreaming. It's a absolutely lovely, and I've thought about it a lot, especially today thinking about this interview. It's a game that it's familiar but also quite different compared to a lot of other adventure games right now. But it's in the development. It's not finished. It has a demo out. It's on Kickstarter and it reached its Kickstarter goal. So congratulations, Tom, on that. Of course, I'm not satisfied because I want the first stretch goal to be reached. It's £20,000. British pounds, of course, the ones that matter, and that's gonna get the voiceover, and you have to get the voiceover because that's gonna be awesome. Now, thanks so much, Tom, for coming on. No sponsorship stuff. We're not gonna talk about sponsors or anything like that. We're exclusively gonna talk about lucid dreaming. So, for anyone who doesn't know, give us an elevator pitch on your game.
An elevator pitch. I have made no notes. I am underprepared. I'm now going to go completely blank.
That's the whole point.
Exactly.
You made it.
Oh my
okay.
God.
You don't like.
You're talking to me.
I'm gonna copy someone. Like, you don't need notes. You are the notes. So.
Okay. So yeah, lucid dreaming in terms of elevator pitch, what the kind of game's about, rather than getting too much into kind of my journey into making it and stuff. It's a old school retro 90s style LucasArts sort of inspired point and click adventure game. So it's pixel art. It's got the scum interface, so the kind of the verbs look at, pick up, use, that kind of thing, and has kind of text output on that as well. But then, as we discussed, also has kind of some modern things like voiceovers and stuff in there as well, if we reach our stretch goal. And it's about the full game is essentially about a young girl who has a recurring nightmare, and essentially you, through the first sort of act of the game, you kind of work out how to control her dreams. And the idea is it's more about sort of lucid dreaming in sort of the terms of you're able to control the dreams to a degree in terms of what sort of dream she's going to go into, and also what companion she takes with her. And that then leads to puzzles in the dream world that can then relate back to the real world, unearthing kind of lost memories and sort of hidden stuff in her subconscious that can then unlock stuff in the real world, and vice versa as well. And essentially it's this kind of journey that she's taking through this sort of process of lucid dreaming to try and cure her recurring nightmare, and in the process kind of discovering a bit more about why she's got this nightmare and kind of what the truth behind that is. Sort of along the way there's a whole load of just mad characters. I mean, as with anything with dreaming, it's going to be freaking weird, but there's weird. Yeah, I'm not going to go into too much detail. I'm going to do a Jonas Fish, and I'm going to say no, that's it. I'm not giving you any more away on that one. But there's going to be a lot of variety, a lot of sort of different puzzles and things in there. All the dreams are going to kind of take you to completely different worlds, and then sort of rooted back in the kind of in reality in the real world as well. So That was a really good elevator pitch, wasn't it? This elevator is going. It's a very
I don't know where we building. Are. I mean, you know what? This isn't a knock on you at all. I really like the passion and going into details and maybe talking too much, because I see it in myself, and it's probably in other people, obviously, because I'm not the first one to do it. When you're a little bit nervous, maybe you tend to talk more. And I do that, and that's not a bad thing specifically. It's like it's because you're talking about something that you're making, and it's very good if you can go into details, and people will see that, oh, he's nervous, but he's talking about something that he's passionate about. So that's actually.
I kind of hope it comes across like that, because it's like, it's not like when, like, you're in a business meeting and then everyone looks at you and you have to kind of give a pitch, and you're like, I'm coming across as really drastically underprepared, and I'm going to get fired at the end of this.
I say it as an elevator pitch, but it's more about condensing information, but also, right, at the same time, you're talking to other people. We're not business, everyone watching here, we're not, unfortunately, we're not, like, I don't know, some suits from whatever, that we just have 5 minutes and tell me, about this game that I don't care about. No, everyone here cares about games and cares about, hopefully is going to care about your game too. So it's good that you want to go into detail. You're going to talk about, two humans in a humanly way. And you can have like charts and everything, but that's just very artificial. We're not selling stocks here.
That's where I kind of work best, is just actually just chatting. And this is where I've done a couple of interviews and a couple of podcasts, but they've always been pre-recorded, and I can kind of rely on the discretion of the interviewer to kind of edit it afterwards and just get rid of all the mumbling tangents that I go off on. Whereas we don't have that luxury right now. So I'm
for
really
everyone
sorry
watching, I did offer Tom the option to pre-record it. I did offer it. And
for some reason I decided that
because it's gonna be better.
Because
it's gonna be better. You have confidence in yourself already, and it's gonna be people are gonna ask questions in the chat, and that's gonna be great. Just don't get distracted. I'm checking. I'm checking. You don't have to, like. It's okay. I'm gonna check.
I don't mind answering chat questions, but I haven't got. I haven't got YouTube loaded up. So do you?
Sure. If there's anything I'm gonna read, because I don't want, like, I don't want you distracted, like checking the chat, whatever. Like, I'd rather have you focus on your game. If there's anything of interest, I'm going to tell you and ask, of course. That's not a problem. So yeah, for everyone in the chat, you can leave questions. We're usually going to take them afterwards because, my stuff takes precedence. Like, that's kind of how it works. But yeah. So
it's my channel, my rules.
You know what? My rules are kind of like this. Just let's have an awesome chat, and that's it. Like, I'm not gonna, I don't have like that many rules. As long as people are comfortable, that's really what I want. So so you've talked quite a bit about how the game is, and it's I hope it's pretty clear for everyone. And I do want to go to the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where this project started, and why did you decide on this specific theme? It's because, so just a quick thing.
Yeah.
Like, when I was thinking about, the interview earlier today while I was washing, because that's what I do in the morning. I think about, the interviews, because I actually care about the games compared to, you can list every game journalist out there for major websites. I was thinking, you know what? This is such a relatable topic. It's unbelievable how relatable it is compared to a lot of other games, a lot of other adventure games, and this is not to knock on them. It's like, how many people are pirates? How many people are, going to Paris and someone is trying to kidnap their girlfriends? Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all lovely, and those are experiences that we can't get. But this, with lucid dreaming, it's like, it's something that people can relate to. Having recurring dreams and recurring nightmares is something that people do experience in actually large numbers. So, like myself as well. So it's something that's, it's maybe you don't realize it right at the beginning, but it's a very familiar topic that the game kind of hits you right from the beginning, which I really like that. So how did you decide on this?
Yeah, no, I've on that kind of point. One of the things I've kind of noticed when people have been playing it, it's when streaming it, and that's been really nice, is that there's kind of a little bit of commentary at the beginning where she kind of introduces. In the demo, it's a bit like a prequel to the full game, so you don't actually get any of the kind of dream mechanics and that kind of control and stuff, because that's for the full game. But it acts like a bit of a kind of a prologue, a bit of a prequel for that. So she's just, the demo is her kind of trying to get to sleep. And there's a bit where she kind of says, "Oh, I have so much anxiety, I can't even get to sleep." And nearly every single person who's streaming it, kind of looks at the camera and goes, "Yep, yeah, no, I hear you. I know it is kind of very relatable." In that way. And also, like you said, with the recurring nightmare, the falling dream, we were having a chat just earlier before we're doing kind of sound check and things. and you said that the Falling Dream is just high way up there as
Well,
one of the
no,
most common
statistics,
projects.
like I've seen like statistics from some sort of whatever association in the United States, and like based on surveys, falling, that's the most common recurring dream of people that were surveyed. Like 58% had that specific dream, or they were falling uncontrollably. So that's more than half. That's very significant.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, going back sort of before lucid dreaming, I won't go too much in kind of like my history, because I can kind of keep going back until sort of the beginning of the story. But the kind of game that I produced prior to this whole kind of journey of becoming an indie game dev, I produced a game called Lockdown, and it was probably almost exactly 12 months ago, actually, give or take a couple of weeks, when the first UK lockdown hit. And I already had an HTML game engine that I'd kind of created for a previous project. And I thought, well, I've got a bit of extra time in my hands, I'll have a go at kind of producing a game, look around for inspiration. Hey, there's a lockdown happening, let's go.
Write
for that.
what you know, right?
And in terms of a setting, that was very, very relatable, very kind of mundane. It was just a house. It was like, and there's toilet roll, and there's feeding the kids, and there's there's puzzles with just picking up, trying to fix the remote control, and trying to there's just various kind of things that people could very easily relate to if they were suddenly stuck at home with the shops running out of all the necessities that they needed, and having to homeschool the children and that kind of thing. So that. And one of the great bits of, sort of feedback that I got from that is, bear in mind, that was the first game that I ever really put out there and sort of when I say put out there, I just kind of put it on Twitter. I went, does anybody want to play this? And it was raising money for charity, and I did wanted to try and promote it for that. And one of the bits of feedback I got from the various Facebook pages and things that are out there dedicated to point and click games was how relatable it was, and how that really sort of resonated with people. They just loved the fact that it did reflect their own lives back at them and their own feelings back at them, and they kind of go, God, yeah, I know, yeah, aren't we all kind of feeling that? Some people on the same level have just completely refused to play Lockdown. So I'm in a lockdown. Why on earth would I want to play a game about being in a lockdown? And absolutely, yeah. Exactly. However,
some people want escapism from games, but it's not necessarily like it's depending on what you want. Like, for example, someone may want a different view of the same situation that they're in, right? So it just
I think everybody.
There's no right or wrong here. At least I don't think so.
No, and it's been quite. I think everybody needs a different kind of therapy. Everybody's everybody deals with things differently, and it has been very much had to be a culture of dealing with stuff this last year. I mean, everyone's just been thrown into whatever situation that is completely alien, and just everyone's just trying to survive it and get to the end of it. So yeah, I can absolutely understand that. But I did want to put some of that back into Lucid Dream as well, and it's got very similar. It's a very different game engine I'm using now, so it's a much more sophisticated, albeit retro. It's a much more sophisticated game engine. It supports, all the kind of the sort of functionality you'd expect.
Ray tracing, yes, yeah.
Yeah. You see all these stunning high resolution 3D graphics. You feel like you're really there. So it's obviously it's not. It's its native resolution is like a postage stamp, but it's the actual the kind of feeling, the humor, and the sort of relatability of the sort of being in a. It's very British as well. I mean, there are things in there, there are phrases in there. Which, we've been working on localization this week, and I've been fielding so many questions from the various different kind of people helping me out with the localization, saying, what the hell does this phrase even mean? What does this, there's a bit in there that just says, like, you clever sausage. It's like, that literally doesn't translate. In our language, if you call someone a clever sausage, that literally means nothing, or it literally means they're a sausage. It's like, you can't, there's sort of various sort of vernacular things in there that just kind of don't translate well, and I've been relying on them to localize it. So essentially kind of, rewrite, if there's puns in there, making them work in kind of local languages and things as well. So there's a lot of very sort of British kind of humour in there, and that's kind of it's my inner monologue. So when I'm dealing with things, dealing with family, whatever, that's how Lucy talks. Is kind of how I talk a lot of the time. It's slightly sarky, slightly just kind of cynical, and that's something that's kind of hurt. So that Lucy is me to a lot of it, despite the fact it's my wife's voice coming out of my brain through a pixel art character.
That's quite a
medley.
It's like, see, I took my wife's like, if you explain this, like, I took my wife's voice and like I made like she was like, and then I put her into a little girl that has my brain. It's like, wait. I want to see your search history because you might need to be on a list.
We've been doing some terrible experiments. It's not been going well.
Yeah, but I totally, because it's like, I don't know. Apparently, not everyone has that, but I think it's a common thing, that internal monologue. You don't do it out loud, right? I mean, some people can talk out loud themselves, but it's like, yes, like when you see a situation, you can make a pun in your head, you can make a joke, or you make a relationship with, I don't know, some sort of pop culture reference, which Lucid Dreaming, at least the demo is full of, which I really like. I was thinking about that. Like, even if you don't understand all of them, it's like it's something that connects you to the game so much, because it's like having a secret in between friends, a pun, like or reference to something it's more or less obscure, right? And you playing the game and seeing it's like, oh, I know this. It's from that movie or from that cartoon.
It's one of the main kind of tricks of stand-up comedy. It's observational comedy. Is if somebody can tell you the most mundane and annoying thing that happens to you in a supermarket car park or on a plane or whatever it is, and they'll say it deliver it in a funny way with brilliant comic timing, but essentially what makes it funny is the fact that you relate to that and you have great relief in the fact that somebody else does it, and it's like they're talking directly to you. It's like a little in joke that you're having, and that's what's quite nice about having sort of slightly obscure references in there. There are some that people will kind of look at, especially on their streams, and they'll go, "Oh, it's a something," and the people in the chat go, "What the hell's one of those?" And they'll go, well, when we were younger, we used to do this.
Right.
And also they'll say, "Well, what's this?" And then all the people in the chat can go, "Oh, I know what that is. It's from this." And they'll be sending links to film references and all sorts. And it gets kind of people chatting and relating. So, and I mean, everybody loves reminiscing about children's television when they were younger and all those sorts of things. There's some of the conversations when you've had a couple of drinks that you get onto children's TV, and then 4 hours later you're getting kicked out of the pub because you're just still going on talking about Sesame Street or something. So it's.
I mean, it's possible. It's just like.
Is that just me? Just me?
Well, I don't know if it's just you. It's just it's such a funny thing. It's like you have a group of adults who are like a little bit tipsy because they drink, and then they get kicked out because they were talking too loud about Sesame Street. I mean,
not because they were talking, but because so much time passed, because they were.
Right.
Maybe I didn't explain that too much.
No, it's not. It's good.
But no, that's so. In terms of your original question, which was where did the inspiration come from? So, in terms of the relatability, that's kind of come from previous games, and also just generally that's my kind of that's my kind of nature, my kind of humor. In terms of the actual concept of the game, exactly what you said. There have been. I work in advertising, I work in marketing, so understanding where there's a niche, or although it might be, this might be a quite sort of cynical way of looking at it, but where there's a niche for something, or so. I basically wrote myself a brief. Say it needs to. If I'm doing a game, it needs to be funny. It needs to be fun for me to work on and easy for me to kind of write the sort of style of, rather than having to bring in, external writers and external kind of people on it. It is me, and also I wanted it to be original in the respect that it wasn't part of an existing genre that is very, so it is in that it's a point-and-click adventure game, but it's not a pirate game. It's not a detective game. It's not a space game. It's not a fantasy game. But also, one of the reasons why those games are so popular is because the aesthetic and the characters and the possibilities there are so rich, and there's so much fun. People love pirates because they love Pirates of the Caribbean. They love Monkey Island because pirates are cool. Not like modern day pirates. That's not cool.
I mean,
but like old school buccaneer type pirates.
You know what? Being someone who's finishing up Counter Economics, I recommend the book just because it's interesting to see how the world works in general, outside of state power. It's like they get a bad rep. There are people who are trying to live. It's not like become. You don't.
I'm not slagging off pirates. I'm not.
No,
I'm
it's just sure.
as an aesthetic.
Right. I mean, yes.
It's
old-timey pirates in the Caribbean are a lot more aesthetically attractive than Somali pirates with AK-47s. That's true, but it's a different thing. Different times.
That's kind of what I was getting at. But that's sort of they are. That's one of the reasons that they're so popular. Is they are. They're really good fun. So I wanted to create a game that allowed me, or a concept that allowed me to touch on as many or as few of those different things that I wanted to. So if I want to put her in a dream where she's in some kind of, futuristic, Blade Runner type, say, I can do. If I want to put her underwater, I can do. If I want to make her a pirate, I can do. If I can do whatever I want with that. So I'm not necessarily planning to copy and paste every single point and click franchise that I can and kind of refer to it. That's not the plan. But I wanted a concept that allowed me the freedom to just go nuts. Do something really, really creative.
Because anything can happen in a dream, right? Like you can go anywhere. So yeah,
and the puzzles themselves are sort of, there are certain kind of formulas for certain puzzles. I'm not going to be reinventing puzzles and doing something that's completely. It is constricted by the medium, by the resolution, by the way that the actual interface works and things. There's going to be standard ways of doing certain puzzles. I've talked about these sort of things at length in my blog as well. And it is going to follow. It follows. It's my first sort of full length game. I'm not going to start pushing the boat out and doing something horrendously weird, because I know the kind of puzzles that I really enjoy, and I know that the feedback I've had has been, we really like the puzzles because they're logical, they're fun, they're a little bit difficult, but they're not too difficult. You get a bit stuck, but then I've had so many kind of messages from people over the last few months, and if I don't check my phone for a while, I'll come to it, and nearly always it'll be, I've got stuck on this, and then immediately underneath it, it's like, don't worry, I've nailed it. Like 20 minutes later, they've got it, and that's, as far as I'm concerned, that's the kind of level I want to hit. I want to be able to give people a nice, smooth game-playing experience, but not give them everything on a plate, and also not frustrate them with something that's just, how the hell was I going to guess that? It needs to be logical, but just sort of, so occasionally you're there going, and then, and then you feel really good when you get it.
Right.
And that's the kind of level I want. And I can do, so if I've got that sort of puzzle writing throughout, I can, the actual, and I've got my milestones in terms of the narrative along the way. Actually, the specific dreams that they manifest themselves as is pretty flexible. It's, if I'm halfway through development and I'm there going, you know what, I was doing this, pirate scene or whatever it is, and it's not really working for me, and it's not quite right. I tell you what, I'll put it, now she's in a restaurant, and she's, and all of a sudden the same puzzles can still work because, but the characters can be different, and you can have that kind of level of freedom, because, unless the actual setting itself is really kind of integrated into the puzzle, I've got a certain amount of freedom, and I can also give people a lot of variety. By the end of it, they can go, God, I managed to play want a game like this, a game like this, a game like this. It changed. It was fresh all the time, but it was it was enjoyable, and you didn't get bored of any particular bit as you were going through. So that was sort of the main sort of idea in terms of the brief that I gave myself. And then obviously Dreams as the answer to that is a really nice way of doing that. And the other thing is the other kind of main concept, which I've moved away from slightly a little bit, but that kind of was a big inspiration for this, is we've got a 6-year-old boy, and he just loves reading. Like his room is just like a library. There's just books just everywhere, and quite often he will wake up in the morning and he'll say, "Oh, I was dreaming about this book, whatever, and this character," and things like that. So one of the sort of main things I wanted was to have that, and I don't want to give too much away about the kind of the mechanic of the game, but books play a really important part in that. So the idea of that kind of bedtime story, and then how that then plays out in your mind and unfolds and develops in your own imagination, is something that I see a lot day to day with our little boy, and I wanted kind of a bit of that in there as well, and that's where that kind of tied in really nicely with the dreaming idea.
Yeah, it makes sense, because I mean, life outside, right, outside of sleeping, obviously has an impact on what how your brain works while when in REM sleep. So it's not necessarily like a one-to-one relation, right? But you will have elements out of your life, like people dream about their house or their parents or their pets or something that they've seen on TV, like a monster that they've seen and they scared. And so like everything we see outside, like when awake, is gonna have some sort of impact on what our brain creates, I guess, during dreams.
One of the things
one of
the things I've always liked when talking to other people about dreams, just throughout my life, is that phrase that everyone seems to say, which is, "I was in my house, but it wasn't my house."
Right.
Like,
yeah.
What? But I know exactly what you mean, and it's like I really want to try and get a bit of that. There's something like, well, it was my dad, but it also wasn't my dad, and it was like, and it was just what. So I really want to kind of get a bit of that kind of, what it's like. It's not too weird, but it's like a slightly odd version of things, but it's not. Again, a lot of the games out there that focus on dreams very much focus on this kind of weird, slightly blurry, out of focus, moving shapes, sort of, you can't really sort of, intangible kind of aesthetic. And I didn't want it to be too much of a sort of sensory explosion from that point of view. I want it to be a bit weird and a bit funny, and like the kind of the sort of funny things about dreams. Again, when it was weird, but it was like I was in my car, but I didn't have any trousers on, and that sort of thing, rather than the kind of really slightly sort of disturbing and disorientating aesthetic you get with when you're trying to remember a dream.
Well, yeah, it's funny to say that. I don't think I've ever seen like a dream state or dream level in a game where I get the same feeling as when I'm dreaming. Because while you're dreaming, things make sense. You don't have to explain things to yourself, like, oh, this doesn't make sense here. No, it all kind of makes sense.
You just accept it.
It's not exactly. Yeah, exactly. So you're somewhat comfortable in that dream, in the sense that you know what's going on and why things are the same, but they're different. They're exactly like slightly different. And only when you wake up, you think, it was something. Yeah, exactly. But it's compared to games, like I remember, I don't know how many people because it's been back in the day, the dream sequence in Max Payne. It was going to around his house, and you had to go in some like smoke and whatever, in like a huge corridor, and you were it was such a weird thing, because in dreams that doesn't happen. You get familiar things, and even if things are weird in the dream, they're still not weird to the person experiencing, to the person dreaming. Again, only when you wake up, it's like, yeah, that was weird, but in the dream it
But
wasn't.
at the time, it just seemed
Right.
like everything was. I find that so bizarre, and I hope I can kind of get across some of that in the kind of game, sort of actually you know, as a outsider, you're there looking at the scene going, this is mental. What the hell's going on? And then Tuesday's going, oh well, you know, just carry on. As you know, this is where I am now, and that, you know, that's, you're absolutely right. It's not until you wake up again that you actually retrospectively look at that and go, yeah, I don't know why the asleep me thought that this was okay, because clearly it's nuts.
Right. Yeah, and again, with game, I mean, everyone can do whatever they want. It's not a one-to-one comparison, really. Like dreams in games, it's like it has to be like dangerous, smoky, dark. It's like, no, like most dreams are not like that. Most dreams are very clear when you're actually, you know, experiencing them, and you see people clearly, some not so much. Like you see very complex things. It doesn't have to be all like kind of like in a blur.
Yeah.
The blur is only when you wake up, obviously, because you don't remember, you know, specifics. True. But in the dream, it's like, yeah, all of this makes sense. I know all of this, and it's like some parts of your house, and then you're in a huge castle. Like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah, but that's okay.
Yeah,
tra-la-la, just carry on.
Yeah, it's just, you know, well, I have weird dreams, but it's always kind of like that.
And you live in a castle as well, so it's not so easy.
Well, yes, I wish. I have someone very dear to me who keeps telling me that I live in a prison because my address has, like, you know, the word sector in it, because that's how, you know, the city is. It has sectors. And like, oh, sector, you live in a prison? It's like, no, I don't live in a prison. That's the name in Romanian. It's called sectors. It's like,
take the jumpsuit off. You're not making it any better for yourself.
Yeah, it's but it's, you know, it's weird. It's weird, but it's so nice to, you know, see a different perspective when it comes to dreams, and that's why I'm really interested in to seeing how, you know, lucid dreaming is gonna be like, because we don't get that in the demo specifically. We get the beginning, right, with the recurring dream, but other than that, you know, maybe some images like the one in the background, that's probably a dream. Yeah. But it's again, it's supposed to make sense when playing it. Outside of it, you know, we can.
Yeah, I mean which side are you on? Where are you? Are you over here or are you over here? I can't see them.
Whatever you are, doesn't matter. Well, technically, I'm to your left.
My left.
Your left. Yes.
My left. Yep. So you're over here.
Mm-hmm.
So here, my hands keep disappearing. So that's a scene from what I suppose I'd call the original demo.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of last
year, I've read the blog. I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed in you. I know why you did it, but I'm disappointed.
Yeah, I know. All the feedback was quite nice, actually. It's all the feedback on the original demo, and then the people then who played the sort of testers, I then gave them the new demo. They kind of went, I like the new demo, but it's not as fun as the old demo. So as far as I'm concerned, that's great, because it means I've got two hours worth of. So anyway, I'll for anyone who hasn't read my blog, essentially, at the end of last year, I created a demo for the game. Jolly good, all good. When I put it into testing, I'm very new to game dev, adventure game dev, so I kind of knew what puzzles I wanted to put in there. But in terms of creating puzzles, they're relatively easy to create. You can say, you know, it's very easy to kind of say, well, I've got a can of beans and I haven't got a can opener, therefore I've created a puzzle. And then how do I do that? And I can make that, well, it's fine. If I want to make the puzzle run longer, then the can opener I need is in a drawer, but the drawer's locked, so I need a key. And then it's very easy to make a puzzle longer and longer and longer and longer, and then not really know how long. As far as I was concerned, I didn't know how long that would take to complete. I've played a lot of adventure games in my time, but when you've created a puzzle yourself, you can't test it. There's no way you can test how intuitive it feels, or how smooth it is to play, how logical it is. So when I kind of put it into testing, I was expecting people to come back and say, yeah, the demo, took me about half an hour, and I think when I sent it to Jonas, actually, I think he probably did do it in half an hour, because the man's just an insane point and click machine. I don't know how he does it. I gave him
Jonas,
this demo,
as in Prim Jonas,
as in Prim Jonas. I gave him this demo. I gave it with no kind of hints or anything like that, and he completed this demo. I think in less than 15 minutes. He sent me back. Oh yeah, I've just done it. I'm like, how have you just done that? You know?
German efficiency. I mean, it's like it's everywhere. You can see it in everything.
You said you'd say that.
Good, because that's a compliment. That's a compliment. It's like we need more like people like him.
But the original demo, when I kind of did send that out to people to test, apart from Jonas, everyone else kind of took about an hour and a half to 2 hours to complete it. And then I was kind of happy with that, because the original demo actually has the dream mechanic in it. So it has the whole kind of first process of working out how to control dreams, doing that, setting that up, and then going into a dream and coming back out and solving a puzzle in the real world based on that. So it has that kind of first sort of act of learning that kind of process and going through that. And I thought that was essential. If I was going to do a demo, it needed to show that off. And actually, it wasn't until right at the beginning of this year, in February, that I played the Prim demo, and I think I completed it in 15 minutes. I'm not gonna get competitive about it, but but I realised that I'd completed it, and I expected more because I had created so much more, but I didn't need more for the demo. I finished it and I went, that's perfect, because I want more, and that's actually what this demo needs to do. It needs, for the Kickstarter campaign, it needs to leave people getting a bit of a flavour of the tone of voice of the game and the characters and the setting and that kind of thing, but also not give too much away. So I then went back to the drawing board. I'd already done all the scenes and everything like that for the house and all that sort of thing. So there wasn't an awful lot of work to do in terms of building the initial scenes. But I essentially went and wrote completely new puzzles and a completely new demo, which would be more like 30 to 45, maybe an hour, sort of, minutes long. So it was much tighter, and also didn't give anything away. So I then sort of produced that. That only took me about a week to produce, because I had all the assets already there, and I just had to draw some more items. So I mean, I won't give too much away. In the demo, there's a badminton racket which wasn't there before, so I put a badminton racket there, and there's a pheasant which wasn't there in the other demo. That was a badger, and so I've sort of tweaked a few things, but because all the majority of the work had already been done in setting up the game in the game engine and the scenes and the character walk cycles and all that sort of thing, it was a relatively simple thing to set up. There have been a few people playing it and then go, oh, is that it? Is that? Oh, well, I suppose it is a demo. Oh, I don't want to play more. And you go, that's kind of what you want. So you want people to be slightly disappointed when it ends, so that they want to back it. So that essentially meant that I've got a demo, and I've also got the first 2 hours of gameplay for the game already built. So that's and it's already built and it's already tested, and I know people enjoyed it, and I know it's completely different puzzles, and it's so it put me in a very good position for just a week's worth of work. It actually gave me 2 hours worth of gameplay, rather than giving everything away as the demo and then feeling, because I always wanted the demo to be slightly different to the full game. Right. So I was kind of planning to recreate the first 2 hours of the game anyway, but now I kind of don't have to. So it was, from a pragmatic point of view, it made a lot of sense, and I've not heard anything, touch wood, about the demo that makes me regret that decision. I feel from a even from a sort of professional business point of view, I feel it made sense, and no one seems to be there going, no, that was a bit crap. I wish it was 2 hours long, because I don't think anybody expects that from a demo.
Yeah, exactly. everyone would want everything, right? But that's the worst thing ever. It's like I don't remember the saying specific, but it's like if you want to make someone happy, the last thing you should do is give them everything they want, because they'll never be happy. That's not, if you want someone to be happy, you don't resolve all their issues, because that's not gonna make them happy. They're not gonna be happy. So that's not the point. The point, like you said with the demo, get you a taste of the game, get you invested, and also wanting more. And that's it. And of course, it's also, it's something that you experiment with. You see how how much you can give without revealing too much. Maybe some mechanics you don't want to show. Some of them you'll be like, oh, I have to have this in the demo because it's like a catch or something. So it depends. So I'm not I'm disappointed because I didn't play it. But other than that, I'm just waiting for the full game, right? No, but it's like it's not supposed to. I don't know who would see your decision as be like, another game developer not giving gamers what they want, stuff like that. It's like, no, that's the demo is really fun, and it's
and it also gave me a load of footage, like what the picture behind you, that way over here, which I was able to then put in the trailer for the game, and I was able to kind of, rather than sort of just showing footage that's in the demo, I can kind of say, look, here's some stuff that's actually in the full game as well, but it's not in the demo, but it's intriguing. I mean, like you said, you kind of look at it's a comedy club for carnivorous plants, and I've kind of talked about that before, so that's not much of a spoiler. But it's a kind of scene. I mean, I've not seen that before, and I'm hoping that I can do that for most of the dreams, that I can actually create scenes that they're not familiar. They're just kind of they're places that you've never even thought of that could exist before. I mean, there's bound to be a certain amount of stuff where people go, I've seen that before. There's that many titles. I've had so many people who've spotted references in the demo which aren't references.
Yeah.
Gone, I love the fact that you included one of those from this game. Like, I go, never played it, no idea what you're talking about. But fine if that's you see, because people are seeing what they want to see. Hang on a minute, is that the same bottle of milk that was in the game? And you're like, if you like.
As long as they don't call you like a copycat or anything like that, then it's fine.
Exactly.
It's like it's like, oh my god, he copied. It's like, no, I didn't
Disney
see that.
lawyers on the phone.
Jesus. Yeah. I mean, well, with Disney, it's like, I don't know. It's a weird company. I read a little bit about like intellectual property, and it's a really weird, really fucked up, legal situation there. It's like it's absurd. If anyone will look at it, it's completely absurd how the laws are made. But Disney's a big proponent of those laws.
Can you stop saying Disney? Because every time you say Disney, they get an alert that goes off.
They don't care. They have enough problems to make like good content. 1977, in the 21st century, you should be able to kind of top that. Yeah. It's like that's how it's supposed to work. It's like time passes, people learn more, they develop their instincts, their knowledge, and whatever technology and everything, and they make better things. Sometimes it doesn't work.
I think actually relating that back to what I'm doing as well, I think that's I'm not a gamer myself. I don't play a lot of games. I've played more games in the last 12 months, having kind of become a part of a community that is developers and streamers and gamers, and than I've played in the last 20 years. The last games that I properly played, I played a couple of Zelda games over the last 20 years maybe, but the only games that I remember really like playing to the full, the LucasArts game. Since the kind of 90s, I've not played that many games, so I don't have that kind of burden of knowledge of knowing what the game industry is. I came into this going, I want to make a game like I used to play. And having completely ignored. I mean, obviously, I know about 3D graphics; they're a thing, and I know about VR, and that's fine. But I've never got so into a game like that I've wanted to create one. Whereas the last games that I ever really just fell in love with were the kind of LucasArts games of the night. And I used to play Sierra games sort of back in the late 80s as well. But the LucasArts games were really, the adventures were really what did it for me. So coming into this, it's a bit like someone who watched Star Wars in the 70s and then came and said, I'm going to make a film, and then started making plastic models of all the the things like that, because surely that's how you do it, rather than kind of, I don't want to have to learn how to do 3D graphics, so I'll just do pixel art instead, because that's what I like. It's what reminds me of my childhood, and it's I can do it, which is I don't have to learn any new skills. So it's
which is funny saying that. It's like it's pixel art. I mean, first of all, it's not simple at all, and especially the visuals in lucid dreaming. I was thinking about like there's something different about lucid dreaming in terms of its visuals, and I didn't really I thought about it a lot, but I didn't know what exactly was different. And then I just like looked at my recorded video. I wasn't listening to it, but I was looking at the video. I just wanted, because I wanted.
This voice,
I didn't want to hear anything.
It's like
so that yes,
buttery.
It's just I sound all of that sort of thing, and it doesn't pick up well. It's like it's tinny. It's like low. It's
You've got a beautiful voice.
Oh, thank you. But you're saying that because it's live. Previously you're saying that it's crap.
It really grates on me, honestly. I can't stand it.
So I was looking without any sounds coming from anywhere, right? I had my headphones on, but there's nothing playing because I wanted to focus exclusively on the visuals, right? So I was just looking at it and like, what's different here? Why does, to me, lucid dreaming looks different than most games that I played recently in terms of pixel artish, 2D adventure games. And like, it's the detail. It's a different type of detail compared to others, because it's pixel art, but it's like, I wouldn't call it high resolution, but the result is, it's like if you were drawing something, right, with how much detail, you would get something similar to how lucid dreaming is. And also the color palette and everything, like I was just literally standing at the walls, and how there's different shades on the wall, because to simulate the lighting, and that's like the ambient occlusion, I guess, would be the case for the actual 3D visuals. And it's such a detailed environment, and it's amazing because you can look at it and like, yes, that this isn't hand drawn. It doesn't have a billion polygons. It doesn't have super lighting effects and whatever. Again, and it's super detailed at the same time. So I think it stands out a lot because of how you did it. And it's
that's good.
That's a huge endeavor. Like I wouldn't look at it and like, oh, it's simple. Like, yes, graphics have evolved, but lucid dreaming has very evolved visuals. It's just it's not 3D.
I'm glad you said it, because I've got a massive kind of lack of confidence in terms of what the visuals look like. So I kind of look at it and go, yeah, it looks all right, and it'll do. But I've never done this before, and I know a lot of it's same with puzzle design, same with artwork, same with writing, any sort of part of the process. You get people who are very, very kind of into it and intellectually into it, and they will, in terms of pixel artwork, one of the questions people have asked me, what color palette are you using? I don't know. It was I drew a piece of wood, so I made it brown. And it's like, when it's sort of, I haven't really got. I've got a style, I suppose, that is my style. When I build a scene, and I the techniques I use give it that sort of stylized look that looks like something I've drawn. But I haven't maybe I will in future games. I don't know. But for the now, I'm not intellectual enough about it that I've gone, I'm going to restrict the color palette for a particular reason, or I'm going to make it stylized in a certain way, or anything like that. It's literally, I just go, oh, I'm going to draw a picture, and I'm going to put one of these here, I'm going to put one of these here, and that needs to be a bit darker, and that needs to be lighter, and I kind of squinted it and go, oh yeah, like any kind of illustration that you do. So I'm glad you like it.
No, it's funny because it's like if I make a comparison, it's like a painter. There are two types, or maybe there are multiple types, but let's give an example, right? There's one who just paints and becomes better as he continues to make he, she, whatever, doesn't matter. It's not the gender, doesn't matter. Like the person, they paint and they become better and better at painting. And the other people who like painting and they do exercise, but they also get like loads of books on different styles and they analyze them and they try different styles and they're more technical, I guess, about the craft than just kind of like, it's not brute force it, but it's just like
it's like a formula.
Repetition. Exactly. Yeah. So it's a very, because I see people like artists and they get books on some visual style or whatever, like this and that, and like, oh, that's great if you want to study it and because you want to improve your craft, but that's not the only, technically that's not the only way of doing it. Maybe if you want to replicate something, that's it's important to kind of study.
I'm definitely I'm much more of a just dive in and have a go and just keep and through just practice and also kind of looking what other people are doing. Oh, that's a good idea. I wonder what happens if I apply that over here and kind of nicking bits and pieces from all over. Oh, I like the way they've done that. So one of the things I quite like, and I've not really done in lucid dreaming, and I'm probably not going to, but I am going to look at maybe in the future, is for a lot of the pixel art adventures I've seen now, there's much simpler stripped back, like you said, kind of pixel art graphics, but then there's also like gradients and glows. So like neon signs will be like a very simple, but they'll have a glow on it and they'll be lighting it. So there's a bit of a combination. And I love the way that looks. I've gone more for a kind of a dithering effect. So it's very kind of pixel art. So all the shading, like you said, is done with pixels so it is all made of squares. There's no gradients in there at all. But I do like the way that looks, and I might have a look at having a look at that sort of style. I might even do a bit of that sort of style for maybe one of the dreams to give it a certain kind of look or feel like that. I'm not precious about like you said, like choosing a particular rule and saying I have to stick to this color palette or stick to this method because I started down this road and I can't move. If I think it looks better to do something another way, I'll do it. If I think as long as it's not too jarring, I'm quite willing to do that.
Yeah, and the dreaming lets you do anything. You can experiment with anything.
It's my game. I can do what I like.
Okay, so speaking of that, because you said that you weren't playing that much, at least relatively recently. What would you say were the catalysts to you starting on this big project? Because it's making a commercial game. It is a big project. It's like not you having a job, a family. Not everyone just decides. You know what? I'm gonna do now. I'm gonna start making a point-and-click adventure game.
Yeah.
Like, what were there must be something there. Was there did you have that desire when you were younger, when you were a child and playing those LucasArts games, like I want to do that someday, something like that, or was it other?
I never assumed that I could ever do that. So it was never something. I never looked at the games and went, God, I really wish I could make games. I just loved playing the games, and at no point did if somebody said, "Would you like to make games for a living?" I'd go, "Yeah," but at no point the idea never crossed my mind. So in my kind of professional work, I've worked at advertising agencies and digital agencies. I've done animation, websites, apps, and certain number of games as well. So I've done back when Flash was a thing and that was acceptable. I used to make a lot of Flash games. Used to do a lot of online advertising, so a lot of banner ads, and you'd have to kind of do something. One of the first things I had to do almost 20 years ago now was and I did an advert for Hewlett-Packard, and we had 24K was the size of this banner ad had to be in Flash, and in that you had to have all the there was like 3 or 4 lines of text that had to appear. There was their logo, and there was the kind of the background colors as well. So that took up about 8 or 9K's worth of. So I then had maybe 15K to build a fully working 3D Rubik's Cube inside a 300 by 250 banner thing. Like, so that's and so in terms of kind of game programming, and that's like sort of more sort of little technical puzzle games. I've done a bit of that throughout my kind of career, and I've done a fair bit of illustration work as well. When you work in an advertising agency, you can't really afford to have a particular style of your own. So like an illustrator who is an illustrator can afford to kind of have a style of their own, and then they are hired because somebody wants that style for their project or whatever. When you work in advertising, you put down Hewlett-Packard and you pick up Starbucks, and then you put that down and you pick up American Airlines, or you put that or whatever, and that's the kind of, you have to be able to jump about between brands and between styles all the time. But one of the so myself and my wife, we run our own advertising and design agency now. So we started that about 12 years ago. And one of our clients is there's a museum in the UK called the Roman Baths, which is literally that. It's thousands of years old, like Roman baths that you can still go to, and there's still got the hot springs and the water in there.
Oh, nice.
Stuff. And so they're one of our clients, and they had a video produced, which was like a little narrative film about a merchant who'd come to the Roman Baths, and somebody had stolen his cloak. Fine, so they'd done that, and it was quite nice. It was quite sort of meta in a way that he would sort of he'd been to the Roman Baths, but then he found himself in modern day, and he was kind of going around the streets in the city, going, "Where's my cloak?" And they sort of said, "We'd really like to have a game produced to kind of support this and to go along with the video." And I was in the meeting with them, and I was sort of jotting down ideas. And you know what? And I went, go with what you know. A little puzzle game or Rubik's Cube, that wasn't going to work. It needed to be a narrative game, and the only narrative games that I knew about or had any passion for were the LucasArts Adventures. Going back to the previous conversation, I hadn't played anything else. So I kind of said, hey, wouldn't it be great to do like a kind of LucasArts Adventures, like having, you could pick up this and you have all the puzzles, and they kind of went, yeah, brilliant. It ties in really nicely with the video and all the sort of the stuff, all the characters in there. So that's what we did, and I think we had about 3 months to produce it. So, and in that point, at this point I had no idea that game engines even existed. So I think I'd heard of Unity, but I didn't really know what Unity was. Unity for me was just a logo that occasionally appeared in a browser, and then some 3D stuff happened, and I had no idea what it meant or what a game engine was. So I loaded up Notepad and Dreamweaver, and I started programming it. So it's all in HTML and JavaScript and CSS, and it's
the classic. Your Adobe days are showing it.
Yeah. It's honestly, but it's like, what? Hang on, what version am I using? Dreamweaver CS5. I can't even. Wow. I'm working on such old software. So
if it works, I mean,
I know the thing is, it's the hotkeys. I just use hotkeys all the time. And when I got a copy of the trial version of Creative Cloud, loads of the hotkeys had swapped around and changed, and it took me so long to do anything that I just went, you know what? I'll come back to that another day. I'll do that another day. I'll just use CS5 and CS6 for now. I carried on using that, and I've never gone back to Creative Cloud. But anyway, so we started basically. Now I kind of look back at it and I realise I basically programmed my own point-and-click game engine. That's what I did, because that's what I had to do. So I programmed it. It's fairly rudimentary. It doesn't have characters walking around. It just has like a little avatar that's like an animated GIF that turns on and off, that talks when he's talking and then stops when he's stopping. And then whichever character you're talking to, it puts the right animated GIF in there, and that's it. GIF. I'm gonna divide opinion. In the UK, it's GIF.
Yeah, I would say GIF. Yeah.
So that's wrote it out like a script, worked all the puzzles out. I still to this day I don't really know how long it takes to complete. It's probably about an hour and a half. I don't know. I think there are a couple of little bugs in it because it was kind of my first one.
And only 3 months. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
like,
yeah. Apparently, that's not very long. So produced it, all the art, wrote it, did all the artwork. There wasn't any voiceover or anything as well, so that kind of obviously makes things. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know how I would have done voiceover. It would have just been a bit too ropey, I think. So that, but it also had to kind of scale up on mobile. Let's go down to mobile and scale up on different screens. And it's got like you can save and load games. It did quite a lot of stuff. Bear in mind, it was all kind of.
I like how, like the more you're getting into the details, and like, you know what, I'm actually proud of this. I actually did work. I'm like, yeah,
you know what? Yeah,
you should be. You should be proud of it.
I should do more of them. Well, yeah. So essentially, we produced that, and that was in 2019. So that was two years ago. And then when the lockdown hit, then that was what I then said. Right, I'm going to do another game. I've got this game engine essentially that I've built. I'm going to do Lockdown as a game, similar length. I think it's probably an hour, maybe, sort of gameplay. Probably similar length to the Lucid Dreaming demo in terms of like the amount of puzzle and things that are there. Then I put that out on Twitter, and I'd not really used Twitter much for like 7 or 8 years. I used to use it sort of quite a long time ago, and then just sort of stopped. And I released that at just after an Adventure Jam had finished, and so the couple of Twitch streamers, so Scum Villainy,
yeah,
Twitch streamers, they kind of reached out to me and said, "Oh, was this part of the Adventure Jam?" And I went, "What's an Adventure Jam?" And they kind of schooled me. It's like, right, let's tell you about. So, are you an indie game developer? What's an indie game developer? Right, okay. So they kind of then say, right, this is sort of what's going on. I'm looking into that, going, oh, this game jam thing sounds interesting. So they streamed it as part of the Adventure Jam kind of they were going through streaming all the entries in the Adventure Jam and the stream. And I sort of watched them streaming mine, going, I've never even heard of Twitch before, and this is amazing. Look, there's on the screen.
And after that, you were like, wait, why are there, women in bikinis, like in hot tubs? Wait, what is this Twitch? It's like, yeah, that's kind of Twitch too.
Yeah, it's like, and all of a sudden, like some sort of like a little animation of like Murray would go, rah, rah, and they go, oh, thanks for the. I have no idea what's going on. This is weird.
It is. She does.
Completely alien. But in that process, I got to meet loads of other indie game developers who had been part of the Adventure Jam, who I'm still sort of friends with now on Twitter, and sort of suddenly kind of got thrown into this amazing community that exists that I had no idea was even a thing. I didn't, the idea that people were still making the kind of games that I used to play when I was little is amazing. I never thought I'd ever come across a new point-and-click adventure game that was like the ones I used to play. So I'd played a couple of the Tales. I'd played, having loved Monkey Island, I had played the Tales of Monkey Island. So I had played the Telltale games when they came out. And I enjoyed them. They were point-and-click adventures. I probably enjoyed them more than any other game I'd played in the previous 10 years, because I hadn't really played much. But they didn't feel the same. So to see other people like going, oh, we're creating a pixel art point-and-click adventure, I was like, this is amazing. These are my people. This is great. And I suddenly kind of thought, well, I can have a go at this. So I started looking at game engines, researching, what could I have a go at this? Could I do it if I did it? So started down that route, and then came up with the concept for Lucid Dreaming, and thought, right, I'll see if I can kind of make something of it. And I was developing that in the meantime, kind of trying to do a proper job of actually planning it properly, rather than just kind of going, yay, this is fun. Actually seriously trying to think about how this full game would plan out. And then we had the other Adventure X game jam, which happened in October, and I then did Hair of the Dog for that one. And that one, by that point, I'd learned enough in the Visionaire game engine, which I used for both of the games, God, that's so much better and so much easier than trying to program it yourself in Dreamweaver. Yeah. God, it's amazing. And so I was able to kind of produce that. I had 12 and a half days to produce that in. And it was, fully voiced and lip synced and everything. Trying new things out. And go, oh, I wonder if I can do this. And it was so much quicker than trying to do it all in the HTML engine that I'd created. It was amazing. So kind of had that weirdly then became sort of my first sort of proper released game, even though it wasn't my first game that I told. Lucid Dreaming's been going on for longer, but because it was done in such a tight sort of time frame, it was kind of started and finished and out the door before kind of Lucid Dreaming's even a demo. But I've learned so much from doing Hair of the Dog as well in that short time, in terms of the workflow I use for getting the audio files sorted and lip synced and imported and all that sort of thing. That I've been able to then, and translated as well. So that's been translated into Spanish. The localization I was talking to you earlier about for Lucid Dreaming, I'm going to hopefully next week I'm releasing a localized version of the demo in Russian, German, Italian, and Spanish.
Oh,
so that's which is I haven't. This is, and it's all, honestly, it's incredible. It's all been done for the love of it. So friends and people who've reached out to me and said, I'd really love to to localize your demo for it. And it's like, absolutely, this is brilliant. And so that's been lovely. People who've helped me to, because I mean it's done on a budget of very, very little. I think the whole. My wife would hate me to kind of reveal any figures and things, but I think the whole amount from start to finish
you don't have to, but
I'd say for all since I produced Lockdown and Hair of the Dog and Lucid Dreaming demo and got to this point, I think the whole amount of money that I've spent is probably around £500 for like the whole lot, because I've managed to get voiceovers and people doing localization for me, and like it's been, and I've not gone out begging through. People have just offered, and it's just like it's so great being part of a community that people sort of see. Like, you know what? I'd really love to see this in Italian. Can I do Italian translations for you? Yeah, of course you can. That'd be brilliant. And it's fantastic. So I'm not expecting that for the full game. Obviously, people are going to be fully paid for it. But it's been
like, even if you don't expect it, and if someone offers, there are going to be some people online, so-called gamers or probably journalists, who'll be like, oh my god, this developer is using slave labor because he put like, no, this person offer is like, yeah, but I get it, yeah.
And the other thing is, when they offered, they didn't realize quite how much text there was in the game. I think some of them as well. I think a couple of them did, because Hair of the Dog's got a lot as well. But I mean, in the demo itself, I think there's over 6,000 words of dialogue, I think, just in the demo, and extrapolating that from the full game, it's going to be probably 40,000 words of dialogue that needs to be translated. So in the Kickstarter stretch goals for that, the localization one is quite high up there,
right.
because there is just going to be so much. The amount of detail that I put in the game, or the amount of custom responses and things, is something that I love in a game, and that's part of the style that I have developing, is that whatever you click on, I want there to if there's a chance for a joke, I want to be able to put a joke in there, and that's what. But you end up with a script that's huge, rather than something that could in theory. I could have written exactly the same game with exactly the same puzzles in probably 10% of the amount of dialogue, and just removed all the hotspots, just removed all the unnecessary hotspots, all the things you just kind of go, it's just like, oh, you can't click on any of this stuff, and then, well, fine, you just move on. But that's not what I enjoy doing. I love being and you don't have to. If as a player, you can ignore half of that if you want to. You can use the hotspot finder.
I'm sure some of them. Yeah, I'm sure some of them, but it's like, I appreciate that, for example, because it's like it builds up the world.
Yeah.
Like, because if you were there, if you were in the character's shoes, you would look into a lot of things around you to see like, oh, does this work? Can I pick this one up? Like, it's discovery, and it's a very interesting element of games in general, but adventure games in particular. And it's a lot more work, obviously. But not a lot.
It's a lot more
not
fun.
Every,
I love it.
Yeah, I think so. But on your side, it's like a lot more work, right? To write more, to voiceover for all that.
Yeah, but that's the part I enjoy the most. I like doing the artwork. I hate doing animation. Oh god, I hate animation. I studied animation at university, and I still to this day I don't know why I did that, but it's not. I just have no patience. So the animation. I could quite happily have everyone just walk around like this. I don't,
Just teleport them. It's like
just teleport them instantly. Yeah,
whatever.
Yeah.
It's fine.
So, and the artwork's fine. But the bit that I enjoy the most is coming up with the puzzles and writing the dialogue. So when I've drawn I suppose the whole thing's kind of feeds off everything else. But if I draw a scene, and then I look forward to that. Oh right, I've drawn this object, and I draw my little hotspot around it. And I go right, and now I go. What does she say when you do look at? Oh, it's one of these. What if you tried to use it? Oh, we can't do that. And I really enjoy thinking of a funny way of saying, like, I wonder what happened if she used this item with it. It's like, oh, you should never do, like, there's one thing. I think if you try and talk to the electric sockets, it just says you shouldn't lick an electric socket or something like that. Yeah. It's just like, what would I? How can I make that? And that's what I find funny, and that's why I got to the point when I sort of finally went, oh god, let's do a voiceover, and I exported all the things out and realised there's like 1,200 different lines that need to be read out.
Right.
And that's why the voiceover is quite expensive as well, is because if I'm putting that amount of detail into every single character, and there were going to be a lot of characters in the various dreams, because there's just you can't just have the same 4 or 5 characters just kind of milling about in the same world. As you go to one dream, it might have one of the characters that's in another dream, but generally speaking, it's going to be a completely new one. So if I'm going to put the same amount of kind of detail in the kind of the text that everyone's speaking, then it's going to be a lot of work.
Yeah,
a lot of voicing, a lot of recording.
Well, it's £5,000, right? Like the stretch goal, like compared over the base goal, right? But it's, I mean, a lot of work, obviously, a lot of characters, and speaking of that, can you, I don't know, tease any other characters? I mean, from the images that you can see, and from the videos of the trailer of the game, it seems obvious that certain living and not living things will be more interactive in the dream world. Like, for example, the rubber duck is like like in real life turns into a huge rubber duck. The fly trap is in here,
manifests itself
here.
Yeah,
there we go. So what other characters can we expect to see in her dreams, and will there be any consequence outside the dream because of the interaction within the dream with them? You think of what you can spoil or not?
I don't want to spoil it. I feel with some of the stuff like with the duck, and like with the carnivorous plants and things like that, I feel like I've already given away a fair bit, and I'm you know what I mean, from the I don't know how long are we talking now, and over an hour, how much I like to talk, but I have to I have to lock myself down at some point, because otherwise I would just honestly I just go, oh, spoilers, and so I'm not going to kind of give too much information on that.
That's something that might not be spoilery though. So it's clear that you're going to go into dreams, right? And in different dreams, you're going to go throughout multiple different dreams. And is this going to be kind of like in a linear fashion, as in you go to sleep, you go into a dream, then you finish that specific dream, you get out of it, you go to the next dream, and so on? Or will you come back to the same? Will you be able to come back to the same dream multiple times? Like, will you wake up, go to the same dream, wake up again, like do something outside, or is it once you're in a dream, you have to finish that dream and all the puzzles in it, and then you move on to the next thing?
It's going to be relatively linear, purely from a practical point of view. If you have too much back and forth. I think firstly, for me, it ends up getting a little bit there's too much possibility, and if you get stuck in a puzzle, and there are too many places you can go, you're gonna as soon as because there are times when when you're playing a point and click adventure where you lose track of the puzzle, or you've not quite picked up on a hint, and then you do end up going, right, I'm now going to have to go through the process of kind of going and visiting each character again, trying to give them all the different objects again, trying the different things together again, and just until I find the clue I missed, or I happen across this, And I try to give as much of a clue in things you're already carrying, like your inventory and things like that. If you look at that, that will kind of push you in the right direction, so that you don't have to keep going to all these different locations all the time. But if you've got, say, 5 or 6 dreams and all the places so there are going to be places in the real world that you're not just going to have a house. There's going to be places that kind of open up in the real world as well. That you're just going to end up, if you get stuck, you're just going to go, God, it could be anywhere, Right. And I think that could end up being sort of frustrating. So there's going to be, I'd like to have a bit of, I might have maybe 1 or 2 dreams on the go at one time. So you have to kind of maybe come in and out of one, and maybe one will influence another one, and that sort of thing. But I'm not planning to have like it's not going to be like the islands in Zelda or something like that, or places where you can literally, like an open world, you can just go into, or once you've discovered a temple, you can go back there. I'm going to have to keep it sort of fairly linear, because otherwise I think it's just going to end up frustrating some people, even though that's a nice thing to be able to kind of go and do. It's also going to be a lot more development as well, because like I've sort of hinted at before, you're going to be able to kind of control what dream you enter to a degree, but you also get to sort of, you get the choice of taking a companion with you as well. And that's kind of where this duck and her bear and things kind of come into, and there's going to be some others. But if you've then they've got their own properties and they've got their own way of interacting with the dream. If you then have, say, 6 or 7 dreams and you've got 4 or 5 characters, you've got to think about how every single character interacts in every single dream. And I think brilliant in one way, overwhelmingly too much work in another way. And actually, I'm not sure it would add to the game. I think it would just end up sort of, like I said, giving too much variety and giving too much of a. I can't be bothered.
Too many possibilities. Yeah, that's
too lazy. Don't want to do
it. You know what? Because it's definitely that. I also think that some mistakes with point-and-click adventure games, giving you too many things to find and to carry in your inventory. That's also, like, if I don't need something for the next 20 minutes, just put it somewhere else. Like, let me take it because that's another thing that can be annoying and frustrating when you have too many things. Like, okay, so what's going to work in this? And it's one specific item, but you have 20 because you start the game and in 10 minutes you picked up 15 items, and you're not going to need all 15 in the next 2-3 puzzles.
That's something I learned from my first 2 games. So in the Roman Bards game, Where's My Cloak, and in Lockdown, by the time you finish the game, you can scroll through your inventory, because I don't think at any point when you've resolved a puzzle, you still keep hold of the items.
That's a bug. It's fine. Yeah, that's a bug.
But it's I for some reason when I did it, I made a conscious decision to kind of do that. And go, oh, well, why would a screwdriver just disappear? Mm-hmm. And then when I got to doing Hair of the Dog and doing Lucy, it keeps things so much tidier, because you then go, when you get to the next scene, and you go, if this is the next part of the puzzle, and you can only get into this scene or room or whatever it is by using these items, and then they disappear, I then don't have to worry about all the responses of use screwdriver with this, use screwdriver with this, use screwdriver with this, because I know there is no way of getting into that room without a screwdriver. Mm-hmm. So and the screwdriver's then disappeared. So it's much neater. It's much less prone for bugs or typos or things like that. You can really streamline the whole process by kind of going, well, we'll deal with this lot, and then we'll get rid of all that, and then we move on to the next bit, and then we'll get rid of all that, and you deal with each sort of bit in isolation. And there might be some items or characters that carry through, but you don't have to, not every single little thing you pick up do you have to then be carrying this sort of huge quantity of stuff that you're never going to use. And you might get a few gags out of it, but I think like we said about the dreams, if you give people too much, it just becomes overwhelming, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to be fair though, if there's one item that you should always have, like from the start, well, some extent from the start to the end, like in a point-and-click game, you have to have a screwdriver. I mean, that's if I don't use it except for one puzzle at the beginning of the game, I'd like a screwdriver for the whole game, because it's like it's a point-and-click adventure game. You're gonna use a screwdriver at one point.
So one other thing I've been criticised about for Lockdown and Hair of the Dog is that they've both got dogs in, and you can't pet either of them. And I having not, like I said, I'm not a gamer. This is news to it. That apparently was like a massive like problem for some people. It's like they tried to pet the dog and then just got really, really annoyed that they couldn't. So it's like if I put a dog in Lucid Dreaming, you'll be able to pet it. It's okay. It's fine. It might bite your arm off, but you can pet it. No,
it's a dog. You know, if you want something like bad to happen to you, you put the cat in, and the cat's gonna scratch the character. No,
use cat with dog.
I mean,
it's gonna end badly.
Oh, actually, you know what? There's probably an adventure game where that happens, where you can take a dog and use it on a cat, and they chase the cat away or something. But no, it's you have to have. I mean, especially the dog in Hair of the Dog is adorable, so who wouldn't want to pet it? But yeah, but to be fair, that was made in under 2 weeks, so come on, like that's absurd. It's a very small thing. You wouldn't have it in that. Tell me a little bit about Jesus. I can't speak anymore. It's and I haven't been talking that much.
Yeah, sorry, I know. I did warn you.
Good,
I did warn you.
I'm not complaining. This is great. In the dreams, will Lucy have any sort of, I don't know, extra abilities compared to her being a girl, like a prepubescent girl in real life, or is that something just too much for
abilities? Yeah, you could say that there will be different properties in the different dreams that can be exploited. Whether that's going to, I'm not saying I'm going to give her
flight
vision or a flight or something like that.
Yeah.
Because that's, flying. I personally, I have flying dreams sometimes, and they are literally the best part of my life. They're just like no, family notwithstanding, but
it's like the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Literally, it's the best thing.
It's like, when I got married, the birth of my only child. It's like, that's...
Yeah. It's like, my wife's going to watch this. What But no, I wake up and it's like, it's brilliant. They're really good feeling. So flight is... I don't actually have any specific plans for things like that. Mm-hmm. But there's no, in terms of the sort of minute side of the various puzzles, but I don't see any reason why not. And if it adds to the story and it adds to the puzzle and it adds a bit of interest to it, yeah, absolutely. And that's sort of another thing I kind of mentioned in a couple of sort of interviews, is that my puzzle design process is quite organic in that respect. I will sort of I have an idea of the basic narrative of the game, and I've got an idea of the basic milestones that have to be hit to get from the start of the game to get to the end of the game, and what the story is that's being told along the way. But in terms of the little puzzles along the way and how they kind of connect together, there's a lot of I've got notes on them, but there's a lot of freedom that I have in there. And I kind of go, right, here's the new dream, and as I'm designing it, I'll just kind of start putting stuff in, and I'll design a little thing over here, and there's a guy over here, or there's a thing over here that I would never have thought of if I was sitting down in front of a blank piece of paper, because that's not how I visualize stuff. I like to be able to literally like build it in front of me and design it as I'm going along. And then I'll give you an example with the Carnivorous Plant Comedy Club. When I was coming up with ideas for the demo, I thought I'll start with, this is right at the beginning. I had no idea what I was doing. I'll draw her bedroom. Oh, I'll draw a bedroom. Lovely. It's got a shelf. What should I put on the shelf? Oh, I'll put lots of stuff on the shelf. And I just drew a little Venus flytrap. I thought, I'll stick that there. It'll be nice. I'll make it dance. And I thought, right, that's brilliant. I've got that. And then I was doing it, and I thought, oh, I'll do something else. And then that whole, just having that item there, spiraled into this whole kind of puzzle, which led to the Carnivorous Comedy Club. There's no way I would ever have come up with an idea of a comedy club for carnivorous plants in any other way. I couldn't have sat down and gone, can I think of a funny thing that, like, you know, that I'm not. That's not how my brain works. I like to kind of draw a cupboard or draw a set of drawers and put something on top of it and go, I wonder what's in that drawer. And then, you know, when she if she's got a puzzle to solve, well, where do I hide that? Or where's, you know, what if she looks in there? What's in there? Oh, hang on a minute. I wonder if there's something. You know, if she does this, then that could fall off, and then this could happen. And I kind of imagine myself in the scene, kind of doing that, and a lot of the puzzles then come out of that. So another example is her mother, who I am still debating whether or not I ever actually show the mother in the game at all.
It'd be funny if you didn't, because like that type of mystery where like you've never seen her, like, you know, like in Tom and Jerry, you never see the half of the lady that, you know, that cleans.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm wondering is whether I always like, or there's members of her family, but you never see their faces. They're always facing the other way, you know, or something like that. But the whole kind of character of the mother in the game and the demo is that she's some kind of gun-toting kind of hunting fanatic. She was like fishing and hunting. Yeah.
I think she would be like more like some sort of biologist or something. Like I should think that she was a scientist that just like going in the field and experiencing all of that.
And hunting moles with a blunderbuss.
Yeah, why not?
Do scientists hunt moles with blunderbusses?
Well, she loves animals, right? She studies animals, and she also goes hunting. I really thought that was my idea from the demo, at least, that she's a very smart, probably too smart for her father. That's another thing. Weird dynamic, but it's normal, you know, like pussy men, you know, strong women. Yeah, that's kind of the thing right now. But it's like she's very outdoorsy. She's smart. She's like, she loves animals, and she analyzes animals. She's like, again, probably a biologist or something, like a scientist.
Taxidermy thing and the stuff.
Yeah, maybe something like that. Yeah. So I was really thinking like, yeah, she's like, you know, like the Lara Croft of the family, kind of like that. And maybe that's where Lucy gets, you know, some of her like sass and like, you know, courage and everything.
I'd say she's probably slightly more sadistic than you're thinking, but you certainly picked up on a lot of the traits. But all of that came from one thing. So I was drawing the hall, and the wall at the far end of the hall in the original demo that I'd done, where the pheasant is, it was blank. It had nothing on the wall, and I thought, that's a bit boring. So I drew just a badger's head just kind of coming out of the wall, and I thought, and then I did, well, look at badger, and it was like, oh, my mum shot it or something like that, and it was, and then I started drawing fishing rods in the cover. It's like, oh, this is my mum's fishing rod, and all of a sudden she becomes this kind of, there's this whole sort of idea of this character, and it all just came from a badger head on the wall. And I would never have come up with the idea of giving this character who's not even in the game yet, you know, giving her this kind of backstory and this idea of all this sort of kind of mad stuff, and the kind of how that fits with the husband who's slightly kind of timid and stressed out, and that kind of dynamic there would never. I wouldn't have developed that if I might have done, but I generally speaking, that's not how I kind of do it. It just sort of evolves, and then I'll draw something else and go, well, in this house they'll have one of these, and that's why, and then that kind of sort of develops. So it is a very organic process in that way.
I mean, Yeah, I was thinking more like chaotic, but that's not a bad thing. Not in a, because if I would probably, if I started to do that, I would be like, okay, so what makes sense? Like, what type of family makes sense? And I would probably think of making the characters based on what I need them to do in the game. But that's more
Yeah,
for formulaic. Whereas you're like, y- the way you're doing it, it's I think it's more surprising, and it's like it's more creative in the sense. Like for me, it'd be like, yeah, I need her mom to do this and to be like this because I want this to happen,
yeah,
with her and stuff like that. But yeah, with you, it's like it's pretty much the opposite, but I like it because you don't no, because you don't know where you're gonna get to that, and it's still gonna make a story. It's still gonna make sense. It's just you're starting
yeah,
from you're taking a different path, and you're just gonna get different results. But the point is that it's still gonna be a family and something that makes sense in the world, right? And the relationships of the characters are gonna make sense because they all grow from the same root,
yeah,
right? Which is what you've drawn. And then you go.
yeah.
But what about the what about her brother? What about Lloyd?
Lloyd.
Are we going to see him? Is he like? He seems like he's the sadistic one, and like, what's the? I don't know.
Well, he got it from somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
You will see Lloyd. I can tell you that. He's already. You don't see his face. He's facing the other way, like as previously discussed.
Right. Right.
But you can see he is in the original demo that I made. So yes, you will get to see him. To what extent you'll be able to kind of interact with him is sort of yet to be. Like I said, I've got the freedom to sort of make more of him if I want to. At the moment, he's not like. I mean, he's not a huge. There's not a huge background. I've only done the first sort of 2 hours of it, so there's not. I haven't. He's a character that you kind of interact with throughout the game, but not in a huge. You're not going to have huge conversations with him. That's not the kind of relationship that they have. Mm-hmm. So there's, in terms of kind of character development, in terms of being able to have a conversation and that sort of thing, and it's less so. But he does play more of a part than just kind of going through the door.
I mean, I was thinking like, at least what I've seen in the demo is like, okay, so Lucy has this problem, this recurring dream. It's not a pleasant recurring dream. So there's something there. There's something in her real life that's making her have that dream, and it's probably not a pleasant thing. It's like maybe anxiety, maybe she's bullied, maybe. And I was thinking, okay, maybe her brother has something to do with it because he seems to be the at least one person who's doing evil towards Lucy.
Yeah,
and I was thinking maybe he's the source of her dreams or her recurring dreams, at least the nightmare. So that's why I was thinking, because it has to come from somewhere. There's something bad that's giving her and I'm guessing the whole game would be like to find why that's happening and to remove that element.
I'm not going to tell you that.
Sure, but so I was thinking, okay, so what's the bad element here? And in the demo, the only two bad elements that I've seen, maybe you can extend to that, but the two main ones, brother, right, mean to her, right, it's torturing her her Mr. Fumble, her teddy bear, which it can be traumatic for a younger sister, right, to have that relationship, because maybe she wants to be protected by her brother. Maybe she looks up to him, and if he's mean to her, that's gonna be disappointment, anxiety, anger, maybe her. And the other thing, her mom being so adventurous and whatever, is like maybe she's not around that much. Maybe she misses her mom. Maybe that's the thing, So it's very interesting because but yeah, of course, we have to.
I'm making notes now because this is much better than the idea I had.
This is just psychology. It's like me, screwing around like based on what I've seen. I build stuff, but it's one thing that I want to ask, because it's so. At the beginning of the demo, we see her falling. So that's her recurring nightmare, and that's what she's trying to resolve. Throughout the demo, though, it's very comical. So it's probably one of the most comical games that I played. It's like almost every single element, there's funny in it. Yeah. And she has funny remarks in it. It's like, it's quite the contrast between, okay, so this is a little girl, a prepubescent girl with a nightmare. and she has a problem. This is a serious thing. It's not like a, you know, it's not to be taken lightly. But the whole demo is like it's very light in terms of and comedic and humorous in terms of its atmosphere. So I was thinking, in the dreams that she has, are there going to be more like dramatic, more heavy elements, or are we going to be all like comical throughout, you know, real life and her dreams?
There are going to be some heavier elements kind of dealt with, but they're going to, her kind of take on it will be the same. So her kind of approach to things is fairly matter of fact and fairly kind of, that's just typical, isn't it? Rather than getting really kind of, don't expect like an emotional roller coaster or any kind of particularly deep psychology in that, because that's kind of not what the purpose of the game is from my point of view. It's to sort of have a bit of fun, and there will be let's say heavy elements. There'll be some psychological
trauma.
Drama's too strong a word, but there'll be some psychological kind of elements in there. But they're not. It's not going to be like a journey through mindfulness. It's, you know what I mean. It's a fun journey through dreams. And I mean, it's like say, you know, any kind of peril is obviously not funny, but it's kind of accepted in games and in cartoons and things like that. And I say it's going to be more cartoony in that sort of respect. In that, you know, it's dealt with in a light-hearted way.
Okay, so she's not going to die in one of her dreams or anything like that.
This is not a Sierra game. It's not. No.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair enough. But in terms of the gameplay, like, do you want to just keep it like classic, like not make any, like, because you've mentioned previously, but you know, maybe there's something
like
something that kind of stands out compared to, you know, the classics. Did you want to add something to that, to at least to the gameplay, or is just like, you know what, we're gonna keep it, you know, cool, like, you know, inventory, you know, buttons, you know, combinations, and that's it.
So in Hair of the Dog, I played around with a couple of things. So you've got different, you got time traveling. I mean, that's been done before, but you also change, so you get different
abilities based
on different verbs. You can different powers, I suppose. And you've also got, I added the thing of you could play in real time. Now, the only reason I did that was because the theme for the Adventure Jam was good time, and it was this idea of he's having a bad time, but then there's like good and bad time that he's having. That was sort of where that came from. So I've done a bit of kind of creativity playing with the format, a bit with that. I did have plans to do something similar with the ability, like you were saying before about the abilities in the dreams as well. That will depend on. I've got ideas, but then the narrative doesn't hinge on them particularly. So there'll be if they add something to the game and they add an extra puzzle element, which is fun and is entertaining and worth putting in, then I'm not ruling it out. I'm not planning to do anything where the actual UI or the gameplay changes dramatically. It's going to be it's my like I said before, it's my first full game. I'd rather do it simply and do it right than start trying to experiment and end up just making something that confuses people and is actually, you know, it ends up falling flat a bit.
So there's no flying mini game. Okay, all right. Okay.
No what? Sorry.
No flying mini game.
No flying mini game. Oh, yeah, no, but I can always. I might do a web-based one afterwards that I can send to backers. Don't know.
DLC? Why not? Like a special. Oh, why not? Well, depends
on
we've
got the cassette. So the retro cassette that you get with the thing is going to have kind of two directories on it. It's going to have side A and side B, and side A is going to have the game on it, and then side B is going to have other bits and pieces on it as well. So I keep saying to Emma, I really want to do another little mini point-and-click adventure as well, and I think do a couple of little one that's kind of free that I put on there. And she's like, just just do one game. Just get it done.
Right.
Do it properly. Don't mess
That's
about.
actually good advice. That's actually good advice.
And
I
if you
agree
have
with
time,
that.
if you have time afterwards, fine. But just do that, because otherwise, I mean, otherwise I'll be like, ooh, and go off and I'm having fun doing other stuff. And then the deadline will rock around. I go, oh, I haven't finished it yet. So
for the younger audience, what's a cassette? Not for me, because I know I'm old enough, but just
it's like for all your younger viewers.
It's like a CD, except
it's like a CD with bits that spin on the inside of it. It's a tremendous piece of archaic recording equipment.
Come on, they were good. They were good at the time. I mean, props to. I mean, better than freaking discs, like the vinyls at least.
Or like laser discs.
Well, no, I mean compared to vinyls, like at least
records.
for. Yeah. Sorry, records. Yeah, I'm thinking like, what's the English word? Yeah, records. Yeah. It's just they're much easier to work with. So tapes were good.
I love that. I mean, the other thing is there's a cassette puzzle in the demo as well. So when I found it, I didn't realize at the time. So
that
I know
a lot of people would not know like that.
Well, that's the thing. So I've had loads of people say on Twitter. On Twitter and Facebook and things, they'll see I've done a screen grab which has got the cassette and the pen, and I'll post that on and go, oh, there's and loads of people will comment just going, there's no way anyone under the age of 40 is going to get that,
Well, no, 40, no.
Or 30, or whatever.
30, yeah, no, but that's actually true. Like a lot of them, like a lot of people will be like, young people will be like.
But they've not played the game. So right. if the puzzle with the cassette, which I'm not going to give away a spoiler, but it is something that is very much everyone I've watched playing it, just instantly they just go, need to use that with that, done. And they don't even miss a beat. I've also, so it was tested for me by the guy who did the Italian localization for me. He's also an adventure game developer, and called Fabio. And he did another one of the adventure game jam that I was part of, which was called Duty First. That guy with a rock, guy trying to get his girlfriend to do. His girlfriend was like a forensic scientist or something.
Yeah, I know it. Ooh, yeah.
He has some very questionable things.
No, the game was good, but the result of that would be like, yeah, you shouldn't.
Yeah, no,
just leave her to do her thing. You're like, yeah. By the way, it's on the website, youtube.com/cryptichybrid. You can check out Duty First full playthrough of that. Okay, sorry.
But he got his daughter to play through Lucid Dream while he was basically testing out the. While he was doing the localization, so you get her to play it while he's kind of like watching, noticing any kind of typos or things that that would make it better. And she managed to figure out the cassette thing based on the fact that there are clues in there. So if you examine the items that you need to use it, they are, the way they're described kind of tells you how they go together, even if you've never done it before. So I've always tried to make things logical, and it'd be very easy to assume that puzzle is moon logic, because for some people it would be. But I have thought of that, and I have, I've made, and I was very conscious when I did it. I didn't want any of the puzzles to be too niche, and so you had to kind of, there's lots of pop culture references, but I don't need you to know. Lines of dialogue from Ghostbusters in order to be able to solve a puzzle, because that's just not fair. So, or if I did, I'd want to make sure that there was a way of retrieving those in the game. You know what I mean? So everybody playing has everything they need to be able to solve the puzzle. So, but yeah, no, I quite like the cassette puzzle, but that's gone down really well. When people have kind of played it, and then it gets conversation started as well, which is nice when people have kind of streamed it. They'll kind of say, and people younger people watching their stream are like, "What's that?" And they go, "Oh, well, back in the day, we always used to do that." So yeah, it's been lovely to watch.
That happens so many times. It's crazy. Like it's unbelievable the ability of all sorts of devices to catch on that freaking tape. Anyway, it's crazy. It's crazy how many times I had to do that. It's insane. You have to look for a pen. I mean, I've used knives to roll the. Oh, it's
everything. Yeah.
I've used screwdrivers because you just put them like.
Well, you have to use a screwdriver.
Yeah. It's just weird, but weird times. I actually don't regret that we moved on from those.
No, yeah, because cassettes were awesome, but we moved on.
Of the time, they were of the time. CDs, same thing. We move on. It's it's all digital now, which means they're all lost if you lose your account.
Yeah, I know.
It's let's go a little bit through really quick to a few of the questions. In the chat. So someone's Millisecond Falcon. I love the demo. The humor is brilliant. I don't think that's a question. It's just it's praising, which is good.
More questions like this, please.
Especially with Lucy's awesome voice and accent. Yeah, that's super cool. That makes the jokes even better. Yes, that the voiceover really works amazingly in the demo. Okay. So actual question: how much of the story have you written and drawn at this stage?
I have written most of the key points of the story. I have written none of the dialogue, but I know what format that needs to go. I say that this is what, in terms of what the plan is now, it will undoubtedly branch and change and things as I kind of work through it. And I haven't drawn the only thing that I've drawn that I haven't actually put into either of the demos is the duck, and that is something that I had an idea for that very early on, and that's I had this idea and I was like, I want a duck, I want a giant duck, and that's and I've got it, and I've got an idea of what happens, and for me it's just really funny, and it's probably not, people will probably play and go, I wasn't really bothered by that, but I don't care. I think it's funny, so I've got that idea, and that's been drawn. And doesn't currently live in a game. But in terms of the artwork for this kind of the scenes and for the dreams that I have planned out, I haven't drawn any of that yet. That's all to come. But it's also something I'm not kind of daunted by that in terms of the amount of work, because I enjoy it so much, and I really don't want to kind of sound arrogant, but I'm pretty quick at it. You know what I mean? I'm not. I like with Hair of the Dog. I know I can produce stuff relatively quickly, and I can, if I produce something and it doesn't work or it falls flat when it's tested, I have the ability, because it's only me doing it. I can change stuff instantly. I can change an item just by opening up I open up Photoshop and I can draw a different item. I can change a puzzle because I can rewrite a bit of dialogue. I can mix and match it, as much as I need to hone it really easy. I don't have to kind of get everything planned out to the letter, because I don't have any other sort of suppliers or dependents who are waiting for me to give them a finished script, or waiting for me to give them the finished artwork so that they can then develop it. I can literally go, that's not working. Let's change it. Let's move this. Let's keep it sort of going as I kind of go along, and kind of I like that sort of, that's the way I've always sort of liked working. I don't mind kind of collaborating with things, but I've always been very much of it'll just be quicker if I do it. Just give it, I like being in control of all the different elements, so I can just easily just move about and change things if I need to. If
it's fast. Of course, depends. Like maybe you would want someone to do animation because you don't like that. Depends on the task too. Yeah, of course. So
and also if somebody one of the things. Sorry, Chris, but when one of the things that happen when people have tested it for me, I've sent it to people to test the demos from a technical point of view, from a proofreading point of view, from a just kind of testing the hell out of it, trying to break it point of view, and also to friends of mine who I appreciate their sense of humour and that kind of. So they won't care whether they get whether there's a bug or anything like that, but they'll go, well, I tried to use that with that and it didn't, and all it said was I can't do that. It's like, where's the joke? And they'll come back to me saying, this needs to be funnier. This, this was a bit boring, or and then I can go, right. I'm then in a position to go, oh well, I'm going to change that to, there you go. Now is it funny? Now it's got a silly hat on. Is that any better? Or I can just do this stuff without having to kind of worry, about workflow too much. Sorry, carry on.
It's a good thing, but it's also, it's a lot of work. That's for sure. That's that thing. So, are you working full time on this, or are you at this point in time? Is it full time or?
That is the main reason for the Kickstarter. So we run our own business. It's just the two of us. We run it for 12 years now, and it's changed slightly over the last 12 months with lockdown. It got a little bit quieter. It's been the type of work that we're getting in is slightly different, and over that time I've been going looking more into being a game developer. I'm having infinitely more fun doing the game side of things than I am doing websites and that sort of thing. It's fine, but I've been doing it I've been building websites since I was 15. So what are we now? 26 years? God, who wants to build websites for 26 years?
You're not supposed to age yourself on the internet. Come on. No. Jesus.
But I've been doing it a long time, and what I need to do from an actual practical point of view is this needs to at least pay enough to warrant me not doing the other work full time. So it needs to buy my time in order to be able to do that. So it doesn't need to do it to the same degree that our other agency does, because I'm doing it for the love of it. But I can't end up in a position where we're struggling to pay bills purely because my hobby's got out of control. So at the moment, it's all been done in spare time, evenings, weekends, and that sort of thing. What the Kickstarter is going to enable us to do is say, right, well, we're not going to take on any more projects of this size, or we're going to take fewer projects for our main business, for full-time work, and that then gives me what I'm hoping for is a 50-50 balance. So I'm still going to be doing evenings and weekends, obviously, but then 50% of my work time during the week is also able to be allocated there, and I'm not going to feel guilty about it, because that's the other thing, is that psychologically making that leap between not doing the paid work and just doing my hobby during the day is really hard, because then I've got to make up that time somehow. I'm feeling bad because I'm not earning money. I'm not I'm doing something. I'm just kind of doing my hobby, and the kind of the paid for work is suffering. Right. So that's the balance I want to try and strike. It's kind of 50-50 over the next year and a half, and then see where we go. If we end up gradually changing the balance one way or the other, then that's brilliant. The other thing we're looking at doing is creating narrative games for clients. So a bit like we did with the Roman Bards game, saying actually, if there's something someone needs a narrative game for a business or for education or for government, whatever it is, that we can say, well, we can deliver that, and we can deal with it in the way that we're experienced with, which is there's a pot of money, there's a brief, we then develop a game to that brief, and then we produce it, and then we get paid for it. And that's the business model that we're used to. And this is what we're working with the games is very, very different. It's a completely different model in sort of producing something and then hoping to sell units afterwards. And then there's crowdfunding at the beginning, and that's why we're sort of trying to work out what works from a funding point of view, what's the business model that's going to work for us. We might not always crowdfund our games.
This is the first one, so right.
It's the first one. It's worked out well for us so far, but it might be that with our next time, if Lucid Dreaming does well in terms of unit sales on Steam and such, then it might be that we can then invest that back and we don't need to crowdfund the next game. In which case, we've then got hopefully a sort of a fan base originally who would then buy the game on Steam as
Right.
opposed to backing it on Kickstarter. We don't at this stage, we don't know, but we're hoping that that's going to be another sort of way of doing the games, but also kind of merging the two businesses slightly and seeing if we can do that. So that's potentially a way of sort of doing it as well. But yeah,
Are you seeing because of lockdowns and all this craziness that is pretty much global, like this, let's say, need for interactive experiences like games, but not necessarily specifically games, right? Do you see like an increase in the need for something like this in terms of companies and governments that would want this because of the lockdowns, because of the situation, because more people are at home, children are at home, and there's a higher need of online interaction and exercise and so on?
As a kind of a parent who's had to do homeschooling, and I mean, we had to kind of buy an iPad because generally speaking, all the school apps kind of run on that, and
Right.
and that kind of thing. I'm kind of aware that there seems to be a bit of a lack of good quality children's narrative games available, especially for mobile. So there are a lot of parents will give their child a tablet or mobile to kind of play on a game, keep them occupied while they're making the dinner or whatever they're doing. But I would feel much more comfortable if our son was playing a narrative game, like an interactive fiction, something that was more akin to reading a book and interacting with it and kind of learning, not necessarily kind of really hammering the education side of things, but something that's going to at least feel creative, challenge them, and just, and is on their level. So that's something that myself and my wife are very kind of passionate about. Our next project, we'd really like to kind of deliver something that we would be happy for our 6-year-old to play with and play on, but is also it's not overly educational, it's not overly worthy. It's not there going. It's not like a load of talking numbers and letters and things like that. But it's also
not Among Us or right.
And it's not, and and it's obviously like with Lucid Dreaming, the kind of the language in it is much more sarcastic. It's probably more sort of PG-13 rated. There's occasional sort of mild swear words in there. We'd want to do something which is completely sort of child friendly, but also is fun and actually makes them laugh. And as it's fun to play, right? And there seems to be a kind of a bit of a. I think there's a not necessarily a gap in the market, but there's certainly a room for more games in that market, especially on mobile, and that's something.
I mean, on mobile is like a lot of people just give their children, a device, a device, a phone, a tablet, whatever, and they kind of just let them, and they, whatever is colorful, whatever they see, that tickles their fancy, they just install, and the parents aren't exactly very involved in what type of games their children play, and that's why you get Fortnite players at 7, 8, 9, whatever, because they're not supervised. And even if there are games that would be fun and challenging and somewhat education, but not a big focus on that, you can't see them probably because they're not advertised as much, and because parents aren't maybe specifically looking for them. But the higher the need when you have children that stay a lot more at home, right, than previously, then hopefully, I'm hoping two things at least with these lockdowns. Hopefully, more parents realize how important their children's education and their time is, and how bad school is for that. But that's another thing. That's statism. Hopefully they'll take more of an active approach to what their children do, especially with electronic devices. Right? Don't just leave them to do whatever. Just look for what they're playing, look at what they're watching, and so on and so forth. Because they're doing it a lot more.
I think there has been a bit of a shift for that. I think there was definitely a big sort of honeymoon period when tablets first released, that it was instant babysitter. You give your child a tablet, and They
They're
are,
gonna shut up.
all intents and
They're gonna
purposes,
shut
they're
up.
hypnotized. They're just like,
Right.
that's it, and that's it. It's quiet. I can hear the birds singing. I can make the dinner. I can do, and it is a fabulous kind of lifeline for a lot of parents to be able to do that, and actually just, especially if if you've got multiple. We've only got one, but if you've got multiple children as well, I mean, God, you don't even get a chance to think. So I think, but I think a lot of people have kind of realised that. I think a lot of things have happened that, like I said, different. They end up on different videos they shouldn't be watching, or different games they shouldn't be watching, and the kind of the idea of just it being a safe thing to give a child. I think that idea is definitely being challenged at the moment, because they're not, because they aren't. You can lock them down to a degree, but they aren't always. If you're not supervising it, there are they can end up accidentally clicking on an in-app advert or whatever it is.
Exactly. Even because that's the thing. Like I watched my nephews playing, and they're small. Well, one's a bit older than your boy, and one's younger, and they were playing a game. And it was like it was just an endless runner. I don't remember the name, because that's like, I don't play those games necessarily, so it wasn't for me exactly. And it was a rhythm game, but an endless runner. I had to jump around and run in the rhythm of the music, and it was an ad on it, right? Just pop out an ad, and you don't know what ads are gonna pop out. And there was an ad that popped out for a totally different game. It wasn't a bad game, or so to say, but the music in the background was rap, and there was swearing in it. And it's like, and you don't know what types of, I mean, even if the app was friendly, children friendly, in terms of it didn't have any swear words, the music was like nice, it was all colorful and whatever, right? It didn't have blood or anything violent in it. The ad that played was something that maybe you would want your child to have. So it's such a huge and very complicated environment that you have to be very active in it. And also having more options would help a lot of parents, I think, if they were if they could find more easily games that like an adventure game that doesn't have any swearing, that's that's friendly, that's but it also challenges them and it keeps them occupied and keeps them engaged, and that's that would be awesome. It's just I think there's a market there, just the product has to come first, and then the market realize that there's a specific need for it.
Also you've got who you're looking at now is the parents with the children of this age are my age. They are, and a large proportion of them will remember the adventure games that they used to play that have sort of been completely ignored by the larger kind of games industry. It's been kept alive by independent game devs. I mean, in terms of the big titles that you see when you go in the shops, you're not, adventure games of that nature are just narrative games, just much less so. They're not the big sellers. So hopefully there's going to be a bit of I think we are seeing a bit of a resurgence of that. I think we are seeing adventure games and point-and-click games as well are becoming more popular. We're seeing in the games press as well that when a games journalist kind of finds one of our games sort of for the first time, and kind of they've been there reviewing Cyberpunk and Halo or whatever for the last 10 years, and they're a bit bored of that, and they kind of suddenly a pixel art adventure pops up, and they go, oh! And you can see it's like little rose tinted spectacles, and they're like, and they write so fondly about them because it comes from a place of nostalgia and kind of loving this sort of how games used to be, and I think there's definitely been a bit of resurgence in that, because people do it, but they're going to get bored of the same game over again. And things do come around again. Fashions, 70s, 80s fashion, early 90s fashion. It's coming back in again, and it's it's an exciting time, I think, for adventure game fans and adventure game developers, because I think there is a definite sort of turning of heads. People are beginning to kind of go, oh yeah, hang on, I remember stuff like that, and and they want their children to be able to kind of enjoy without having to boot up Scum VM. They want to be able to have a game that runs on Steam that they've already got, or whatever whatever it is, and kind of put their child and go, look, this is the sort of thing I used to play. You're going to enjoy it. Do it. you know,
and you want something with that old feeling, but something new, because you know, if you try to show someone who's like 7, 8, 9, 10, you know, the adventure games of the early 90s, it's they're of that time and they were fun at that time, but now it's like things have changed, and the attention span and the way people think, and they look, how they look at things. So that's why there is a need for new adventure games that takes some of the old, right? And then they bring it, you know, to life in a newer fashion. And it's, you know, visually, in terms of the UI, in terms of the puzzles, in terms of the story, and so on and so forth. So it's amazing how this genre specifically, it's if you're interested in indie games and you are actually actively looking for new ones, you're gonna stumble upon one that's really cool pretty much every other week. Or every week, every like 2 days.
They're all different. So they all have some of them play with the UI, some of them play with the graphics. So, you know, there's even though there are, you know, even if you just take point and click adventure games, just that one tiny subgenre of adventure games, there's so much variety in there in terms of the way the games work and the way that they look and their humor and their style and everything. And but they all kind of, for anyone who's sort of played point and click games in the past, they all have that nostalgic kind of feel because of just the very nature of them. And some, like Lucid Dreaming, plays more on that intentionally, on that kind of nostalgic thing, whereas others are just, I mean, they're very kind of modern takes on it, but that same kind of magic is still there. If the puzzles are well designed and it's a good narrative story, it's a good storytelling piece, then yeah, it's going to have that same kind of magic that they used to have in, you know, when they first.
Yeah, and they want to share that. I mean, if I have a game that I like, I want to share it with the world. I mean, if you're a parent, you want to share it with your child, and so on and so forth, because it's just that you like something, you want other people to check it out too. So that's I mean, that's, and of course it depends on the you know, piece of content, but I mean, even with Lucid Dreaming, I would show it to, you know, a younger audience. Like, I wouldn't have any, at least from the demo, it didn't seem anything, you know, too, like, you know, someone who's like 10 or 12, something like that. That's what I mean.
Yeah, so, our son's played it, but I know where all the swear words are. So when he's about to say, I just cough whenever there's like, and he can read, but he can't read that quickly. So if he's not, if he's not quite, if I kind of cough and he's sort of going, oh, what was that word? Oh, it's already gone. And he's not quite kind of picked up on it, then it's sort of all right. And you know, some of the other words we kind of.
I mean, you can tweak it up. I mean, who knows? Because you like being very, you know, meticulous with things. Just make a version that's like PG, like 3+ without any swear words, and that's fine.
Yeah, and you could. I could quite easily, and I am considering, because a couple of people have sort of said, look, you know, you could just take all the swear, and for me, for the humour, it was kind of essential. But the more I kind of think about it, I don't know whether it is. So for the full game, I'm gonna sort of see how I get on with the tone and with the sort of the slightly more savoury language, and sort of see, actually, is it worth it? You know, can I do something a bit more like I did with Hair of the Dog? So where they've got the two drunks chatting to each other, so they kind of throw insults at each other. And I had to sit down and write all these, like, make up all these insults that sound insulting but aren't real. They're not, you know. So, like Roald Dahl used to do, you know, a lot of that in his writing, and that I love that you're going to go, that sounded rude, but it wasn't. So it's fine, but also we all know what it actually meant, but it, you know.
Yeah, you can play with words and get a specific, you know, expression out without, you know, actually using a bad word.
And I don't know how they won't. I don't know how they're going to translate when the translate, if they translate it to different languages. I don't know how you translate the word piddlestick into Spanish or something. But I suppose I'll have to look.
I have no idea how I would translate that in Romanian. Anyway, I really don't know. Piddlestick. I don't know.
Piddlestick. I don't know.
I mean, it works in English, but I would understand it in English and like fine. But if I had to translate it in Romanian, I have no idea. No, something that you've mentioned previously, maybe we can get a bit more into that. So you're using Visionaire Studio for Lucid Dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
Have you like, why did you settle on this one? Did you try any other engines? I mean, Unity's pretty popular. Adventure Game Studio is pretty popular for this genre, and obviously Visionaire too. But it's in terms of the number of games, it seems like Visionaire is a little bit on the losing side when it comes to the number of titles. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just like other engines have four point adventure games have taken a larger chunk of the market.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm thinking, why did you decide on Visionaire?
Well, first, I mean, like when I like as I said, when I first came to this, I didn't know what I was doing. So any engine is better than what I was using before. I started looking at Adventure Game Studio initially, and I had a play about with that. And what I tried to do is sort of using the assets that I'd already created for the lockdown game. I thought, how easily can I kind of recreate that? Because that's kind of how my brain already worked. Because I'd already, that my HTML engine that I built was built to plug into my brain. So it was that kind of conduit from that to the. So I kind of got a little bit of a way with Adventure Game Studio, and I thought, okay, I'll park that and I'll try another one. And the next one I tried was Visionaire. Mm-hmm. I downloaded the free trial version, which is basically full version, but you can't publish again. You can't kind of publish a build, and I think you're limited to the number of scenes you're allowed, maybe like 5 or 6 scenes or something. Started looking at a couple of the video tutorials for that and working through building a scene, and realized that it actually was, in terms of the way that the games are structured, in terms of the way the characters and the objects and the imagery and the scenes are all kind of separated in the UI, just matched exactly with the way I'd already worked. So I could literally, I found it very easy to sort of say, well, I need to change this property here. Well, if I built it in my thing, I'd put that as a scene property rather than a game property. And I'd look in the scene properties and it would be there. And it was give or take a few things, but it was very, very similar to the way I worked already. So as far as I was concerned, it just fitted the way that I wanted to build games perfectly. So at that point, as far as I was concerned with Unity, that was for doing 3D games. As far as I got, Unity, that's for kind of 3D stuff. And I've got a friend who does a lot of VR stuff for Oculus, and he uses Unity. And as far as I was concerned, that's what Unity did. And it wasn't until I did the other Adventure X Game Jam in October that I realised that a few people were using Unity with Adventure Game Creator and that sort of thing, and kind of then sort of got introduced to kind of Power Hoof and things like that, and people kind of showing what they're doing, and realised, oh, actually, yeah, you can do most of this with Unity as well. And also talking to Yakir, who made Plot of the Druid, so he was originally using Visionaire, and then year before, I can't remember, a year or so ago, he then switched and is now using Unity. And I kind of asked him how that migration was, and he said it was actually relatively easy to kind of take all the assets they already had and just kind of reprogram them in Unity. So I'm not ruling out using Unity. I quite like trying new things and experimenting with stuff. So I've got no problems with putting down Visionaire and picking up Unity and seeing how it works. And if it works for me, brilliant. If it doesn't, I'll go back to Visionaire. I've really loved using Visionaire. It's been brilliant. I don't have any loyalty to it specifically because I've not been using it for that long. But in Unity would have to be pretty good for me to not be using Visionaire, because now I'm kind of comfortable with Visionaire and I know how it works, and I can get around it very quickly now. I'm sort of kind of used to the UI on it, so I'd be interested to have a go with Adventure Game Creator and Unity and things at some point now.
I mean, if it works, then why change it? The one thing that I would maybe think that it would facilitate is maybe releasing on multiple platforms. Although I did see that the demo version of Lucid Dreaming is available also on mobile on Google Play. So in that regard, like, okay, so Visionaire doesn't have any issues, like, or Visionaire, it seems like it doesn't have major issues to make builds for other types of
No,
platforms. Whereas
I
usually you. Sorry, go ahead.
No, so I didn't realize when I first started using it that it actually supports Android and iOS, and it also supports Switch, Xbox, and PlayStation. Wow. So yeah, it's you have to then go through the kind of developer platforms for those different devices and different platforms, but Visionaire is able to output an acceptable format for that. So my guess is there'll be a bit of changing things around with the UI and stuff like I had for the mobile. I've kind of made some of the buttons and hotspots a bit bigger, and there's going to be a bit of tweaking and things. But all that support is built into the engine. So I would love to be able to release Lucid Dreaming for Switch. That is definitely miles down the line, but it is something I am really interested in looking into, and so I need to kind of have a proper look at that when I've actually built it, and then sort of see what if I can kind of port that for Switch as well. That'd be great.
But when it comes to this specific moment in time, right now, May 6th, what are the platforms that you know for sure that you're gonna you want to release Lucid Dreaming on?
I know for sure that I want to release.
Definitely. What's definitely? So Windows.
Definitely Windows, definitely Linux, and definitely Mac OS. I think those are the only definites until we reach our stretch goals. Mm-hmm. So the other thing is where there's a bit of there's another government fund, kind of public funding in the UK, which has been released, called the UK Games Fund, which we have kind of done a expression of interest in. We're kind of making a case to apply for that funding. If that funding is comes to anything, that will then go to making up for any shortfall in the stretch goals as well. So if we get that, that will then go towards producing it for mobile platforms and be invested in possibly for Switch, and possibly depending on whether we may not be successful with it, but that's what we're hoping. The Kickstarter isn't the be all and end all of the budget. We are going to be looking for other sort of ways of kind of supplementing that, and if we can, we want to release it on as many platforms as possible. So that's kind of we'll see.
Yeah. Well, since you've mentioned that you're looking at other options, have you contacted or have been contacted by any publisher who's interested in helping out financially or with other I don't know, like porting or anything like that for Lucid?
I've spoken to a couple of publishers, not publishers, so people who are developers and publishers. Maybe they do a bit of both, on kind of just around the subject, not specifically about Lucid Dreaming. No one's kind of offered that. My guess would be that once we've released it, we'll probably end up getting emails from publishers saying, "Would you like help porting it?" That's because that's generally speaking, they'll be looking at people at what stage. There's not much point in them offering their services if we've obviously got a relatively clear idea of how we're planning to fund it now, because we're on Kickstarter and we've been going on about that for months. So publishers will be looking at it going, well, they're obviously doing Kickstarter. There's no point kind of offering that. So, but wait, I don't know at what point they attack and start kind of emailing you about promotion. We're getting a lot of kind of requests for voice work and sound design and music and things like that, and so we're kind of storing everyone's details. Everyone who contacts us, we've got like a kind of directory of things. So if we do ever kind of want to tap into that, we can do. But when you get to different stages in the process, different people start different kind of industries start contacting you, going, "Oh, we've just noticed you're at this stage. If you're interested, we offer this service." And then so we'll see what happens.
I think that having a successful Kickstarter is going to be a boost in terms of the interest shown, because I know talking with other developers that they had like a communication, something like, "Yeah, you do the Kickstarter, and if it's successful, let's talk about doing a publishing deal," something like that.
Okay.
I mean, it makes some sense because they're gauging interest in that title. So hopefully there's going to be more, because I mean, ideally you'd have full control and do whatever you want with the game and however you want it, right? But some extra help, especially when it comes to multiple platforms, that would be nice. And because to me it's always, if there's a cool game, lucid dreaming is really cool, I want to play it, then I want as many people around the world to play it regardless of the platform. So if there's anyone who can help with that, then that's I'm all for that, all for those partnerships that
I think
go into that.
For me, the touchscreen devices, so the Android, iOS, and the Switch are they're definitely the primary candidates, because for point and click, like with a SCUM interface like we've got, it's just built. It's built for touchscreen. Surely, there's no, you know what I mean. As long as your hotspots are kind of big enough and it works, it's perfect for it. As long it's so as far as we're concerned, that's definitely what we've kind of got our eyes on. In terms of porting it, I'm going to kind of look into that myself. But if it ends up like I look at it and I go, I don't even understand how that works, then absolutely we'll get someone else on board. But we'd need the money to do that. So it might be that maybe if we're able to get funding, that's brilliant. If we massively smash all our stretch goals on the Kickstarter, brilliant. Why not? Let's have a look at it. Or if we are successful after it's finally been released and we sell enough units on Steam or wherever, or whatever platform we're selling it on, then we can invest that back into it and say, right, well, let's this is our first title, it's our showcase piece. We want it to be as good as it can be. We want to be able to, when we produce the next game, we want to have the best opportunity and the best sort of starting point of saying, of people who've played our previous game and hopefully enjoyed it. That we can then say, right, we're creating a new game, and we can guarantee a certain number of people who will at least want to play it based on previous title.
So something that we haven't touched on almost at all, and it's such an important element, the audio, the music, everything. So I checked my playthrough of the demo, and I just turned everything off, and let's say I don't mind my voice. I was just listening to the audio. And it's like it's very playful. It's very kind of like, I would say, old school in terms of the way it's built, the music is built. And I was thinking, like, are you trying to do something maybe different with the dream state, something more when it comes to the themes of the tracks for the full release? Because the demo is like, it's kind of cheerful. It's like playful and cheerful, and that's fine. It's just, I was thinking, like, maybe this won't work with every single dream, because some dreams are going to be different settings, different maybe a bit more serious, or nighttime, daytime, outside, whatever. It's at the club, that sounds like it's going to have a different theme. So what are you thinking of doing on the audio front?
I mean, in terms of whether there's going to be like a consistent treatment sort of difference between reality and dreams, we've kind of played originally. I put in the original demo, which had that difference in there. I played about with maybe kind of distorting the music slightly. I would possibly do it if we had a dream which was very closely related to a real world scene, have same music but slightly off key or slightly disorientating, so it felt a connection between the two, but it wasn't quite right. Then, generally speaking, the music we're going to pick is going to be suited to that particular scene, that particular dream. The music that's actually in the original demo we created for the Carnivorous Comedy Club is actually the music that plays at the end when the credits roll. So it's kind of a slightly boom, boom, boom. It's like sort of slightly jazz kind of club. Slightly. So if you haven't listened to that, that's the music that plays in the Carnivorous Comedy Club at the moment. That said, the only bit of music in the current demo which was composed for us was the kind of the main theme, and that's because we really wanted like a nice long thing that was fairly low level. It's a bit like kind of old school lift music. It's just kind of, it's there. It needs to not be too, you know, you need to be able to hear the dialogue. It needs to be in the background, not get too annoying. You need to be able to ignore it, but have a bit of atmosphere from it. And the other bits, because the other sort of music loops we've got, because they're only in shorter scenes or short bits, like during the menu or in the credits and like that, they could be a little bit more, have a bit more kind of personality to them. But they were all from another music library that's produced by an Italian guy. And it's called playonloop.com, and I've used that for all the games. So the Roman Baths game, the Lockdown game, and so that's my kind of go-to place for music, because he's got a whole selection of kind of chip tunes and retro style things that kind of have that old school feel about them. They sound like a little bit like an old Sound Blaster kind of style to them. But that said, depending on how well we do on Kickstarter, I'm having conversations with a couple of other composers at the moment who've expressed an interest and who have done similar stuff in the past and very retro kind of stuff in the past, which would be a perfect fit. So the theme generally is it's not going to be, you're not going to get a full orchestral soundtrack,
right, yeah,
to it, because it just wouldn't fit. It just wouldn't.
Exactly.
For me, it needs to sound like an old game. It needs to, it's not going to be too sort of, grainy and like sort of 8-bit.
Yeah, it's not going to be like an epic, like inspiring whatever. It's like it's a game.
Yeah, exactly. And it needs to feel a little bit. It doesn't need to feel necessarily kind of just 16-bit, but it has to have that kind of, it has to have that retro kind of feel to it. So that's definitely and I hope that sort of comes across a little bit in the demo, but that's definitely going to come across more in the various scenes. And because there's going to be different kinds of dreams and different kinds of scenes in there, we can be a bit more playful with the music as well. So it doesn't all have, so like with Monkey Island, it's all very kind of Caribbean in that sort of way, but it doesn't need to have a specific kind of theme running through it. It can be completely different in one dream to the next, and I think that's going to be very important for like building the atmosphere of them as well.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that it's because of the different dreams, right? You're gonna have to find something that fits in the dream, but also I'm thinking that it has to fit into what Lucy would know.
Yes.
So it's like it's you can't just have like the jazz theme. Okay, it's not unusual for a child to look at a movie, like an old school movie, with her parents and see like a jazz scene. That's like that type of sound. It's like young children hear that, but it's going to be something very complicated. It's probably not going to be in their mind or something that
definitely. I've not really thought about it from kind of Lucy's point of view in that kind of thing. I for me, I'd sort of seen the music as the kind of giving the atmosphere to the, I suppose it's slightly different in the bar, because that's supposed to be music that's kind of playing in the bar. I suppose the rest of the music, that's I don't feel that Lucy's walking around her house and there's music playing, and like, you know what I mean? It's atmospheric for the player, but not necessarily for the character. But I quite like the idea of making it something that, I mean, it's stylistically, from a sound design point of view, the music, we hope, is going to have this kind of old school retro kind of feel to it to hold it all together. And that'll be the brief to the composer, to kind of make sure there is a theme kind of running through it that sort of is kind of Lucy's sort of theme on, and how that sort of changes in the different scenes. But yeah, I've not really thought about the idea of it sort of being the music in Lucy's head, and that's what I quite like that. I think there's something to play with that. I
mean, because the dreams are her dreams, right? So she wouldn't hear them, whatever she hears, it's not going to be something that's something that an adult would listen to usually.
Porn film music.
Like I don't know, metal or whatever. What does she listen to that? It's like it's probably going to be some pop or something.
Yeah.
So it's because it just, for me, it's just consistency. Like I like that thing. Like when elements make sense in the world.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be logical, logical in terms of the reality, but it has to make sense. You know, it's so this thing fits here. It's like it's the little girl's dream. So everything in here is like what she knows. Nothing can be. It could be absurd things, but they're all based on what she knows. You know, the fly trap. It's she knows the fly trap, so it's it's a monster, whatever. A club. It's not that big of a deal to see a movie with that has a club, like the red velvet curtain. That's something that's such a classical thing that you can see whenever you're super young, because you see it everywhere, right? In theaters and whatever. So
and that's the thing. Not making it too the dreams. I'd not considered doing this, but I don't think it would work to have the dreams being really retro, because that, although she's kind of like, they can have retro element if she's come across particular things in the real world, they can manifest in her dream, but she's not going to suddenly kind of start acting like someone she's not. You know what I mean? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because she is based on her room. She knows a lot of things.
She
interacted with a lot of puppet owners. But if there's a dream and it's like this bar scene, and she comes with a trench coat, and she starts talking like she's like in the 1920s Chicago.
Absolutely.
It's like, you see, this is like that's not gonna make sense. It's like
no
child's gonna be like that. But you could make a dream like that, but it wouldn't be her dream.
Yeah, that's what, and I think she needs, when she's in her dreams, she's there. She's like you, looking at it, going, "Okay, this is weird. What's going on here?"
Right? Yeah.
Okay. Like, why is he in my dream? What is it? What on earth is he doing? Or when did that become so massive? Or
But it has to make sense. Like the fly trap. It's like, oh, it's but why is he taller than me? Like, what happened there? That doesn't. Now, let's leave lucid dreaming a little bit to the side. Tell me anything that you've been playing recently and you've enjoyed, or anything that you've. I mentioned this. I have some notes, and I put like on these things like games you love. It's basically like, what have you been enjoying and what are you looking forward to? Coming up next, whatever genre, doesn't matter.
The game I've enjoyed playing most for a while was one that I play tested for. I'm going to hopefully I'm pronouncing this correct, but Dionys Games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they
not
produced,
another weekend.
Sorry,
not another weekend.
Yeah. So I played Not Another Weekend. Test play that, and there's some stuff in it that is quite inappropriate at times.
Disturbing, yeah,
and very disturbing. But honestly, I'm not brilliant at point and click adventure games. It took me, I think I played it for 14 hours before I actually completed it, but I really, really enjoyed it. The artwork isn't spectacular.
I like it. I like the style. I like it's like it takes you back to, I don't know, before I was even playing games. It's like if lucid dreaming is retro, this is like antique. It's like, it's brilliant. Honestly, but what really got me, and there's no voiceover in it, but the timing of the characters when they talk to each other, and the little nods and the looks and is just perfectly observed. It's really funny, and I really enjoyed it. And they've since, bear in mind, that's me playing for 14 hours on a game that was still at that stage had loads of bugs in it. We were doing bug reports and saying, this over here, and this person suddenly appears here, and there were issues with it. And they've spent the last few months tidying all that up and applying this sort of huge kind of spreadsheet of feedback from everyone. But even though it was an early release of the game, it was brilliant, and I loved it. So I'm looking forward to seeing the kind of the polished version of that. And I mean, if you love kind of retro, so it's more 80s. It's set in the 80s, but it's just I just thought it was hilarious. I loved it, and it was, again, it's very much my kind of humor, very sort of slightly mature.
Obscure. A little mature, but just slightly kind of. There's just some weird stuff going on, and I love the main character. Is just I love his take on stuff. He's just kind of this sort of browbeaten guy who's just like, I just really wish you'd all just go away, you know. And he's so kind of annoyed with everyone and tired of life, and I just love his kind of his take on everything, and the comic time is brilliant. So I really enjoyed that, and that's being released
this month. I'm not sure where. It's like today I sent 2 emails about. I think it's the 30th. I think. Don't quote me on that. I think it's May 30th when it comes out on Steam. Just, you know, for anyone watching, check it out online. It's on Steam. It's not there's a demo out though, so you can check that out. So
cool.
Not on the weekend.
The trailer was good, but when I played the game, it was a lot funnier than I thought it was going to be based on the trailer. And so I'm not saying the trailer is not funny, but the game is. Where for me the funniest bit is all the dialogue, and there's none of that really in the trailer particularly, and that's where it's the way that the characters all interact with each other. I just find really. And
if you're a little bit, let's say, you know, more experienced in terms of, you know, age-wise, then you'll see so many pop references like you know, wrestlers. It's like a Terminator 2 or stuff. It's gonna be awesome.
Brilliant. So that's in terms of the games I've enjoyed and am looking forward to playing again in a different state. It's definitely not another weekend.
And that's coming really soon. So that's really great. You don't have to wait a long time for that. Hopefully I'm gonna get the key. Let's see. I don't know. You know, you'd think that I'm gonna get the key, but I don't know.
We plugged it enough.
I mean, you know what? I covered it. I like it. Hopefully, you know, it's. I mean, I would plug it anyway. Like even if I didn't get a key, because this isn't about me like getting rich and having every single game on Steam. It's like this is cool. I mean, it's the only thing that I don't think it's been it didn't have enough time to market itself. I think it needed a bit more time, because I was when it was announced, it was. Probably this year, like earlier, or maybe November, something like that. It didn't have a lot of time. Like before you know, release and everything, you'd think a bigger marketing push would be going on. So that's if it doesn't do that great, I think that might be an issue, because the game is really fun and the story is disturbing, but really it's like I haven't played the demo, right? So but there's a twist which is really intriguing into it, and it's like after you play the demo, you can't wait to check out all the other characters in the hotel and to see, you know, what you're going to do in order to, you know, get rid of them, because that's the plot of the game basically. So it's really cool. It's just, you know, it's already coming out. Like it was like yesterday I played the demo and it was announced, and now it's like already coming out. Okay.
If it's a polished version, which it should be, of what I played, you know, test play, it's very well worth playing.
All right, so no Cyberpunk, you know, DLC, nothing like that. You're not like Halo or something. Fortnite 2, no.
What I've been playing?
I'm not playing. I'm not playing those things. No,
I don't know what else I've been playing. Been playing Carcassonne. What's that? That's a board game.
Oh, that's.
I've been playing Pictionary a lot this week as well. That was good fun.
PC games, come on, man! This is a channel about PC games. What the hell?
Minesweeper, does that count?
Actually, it does count. Yeah, that's a classic already. I mean, you could. I mean, you know, again, you're showing your age a little bit. You could just say like pinball. You know, at least go to Windows 98 or 95. I don't remember. I think 98 introduced pinball in Windows, because Minesweeper has been. Yeah, no pinball. You know, it was it was a pinball game for like in Windows. Like it came with the operating system. Yeah. You'll know it when you see it. I do. Yeah.
I'll probably recognize it. I'll Google it later. I don't remember that.
It was. I think Windows. So they had Minesweeper initially, like in the golden years.
And Solitaire. Yeah.
Solitaire and that, and I think Hearts. I think they had Hearts too.
I remember being very excited when Free Cell came out, because that was like it was like I've got Solitaire and Minesweeper, and now I've got Free Cell as well. That was cool.
No, I think pinball came home. You know what? It could have been. Maybe it came out with Millennium Edition and Windows 2000. I don't remember.
Oh, I don't know.
something like that.
I don't remember that at all. I'll have to go and look it up.
It's pretty fun. If you're not gonna do anything, like in the next 4 days, it'll be like, what are you doing?
Yeah,
Are you
I've
working on the
got
game? It's like, no, I'm
absolutely
playing football.
nothing to do. I've got the whole of May. I don't know what I'm going to do. Got so much time on my hands.
Okay, so I'm gonna keep you more. Let's do some like final plugs. Of course, the Kickstarter, right? Just
Yeah.
advertise it the best you can.
God, right. Hang on. Let me see where I'm going to check where we're up to at time of recording. We're not even recording. Oh, right. We've just hit the 16 grand mark. So that's in British pounds. So we launched the Kickstarter last Tuesday, and then this Tuesday, a week later, we funded, which was fantastic. That was 2 days ago then, and we are now working towards the first stretch goal,
which is a very important stretch goal.
Very important stretch goal, which is the voiceovers. So we're working on that at the moment. We've just released another backer reward tier as well. So we're offering a kind of a big deluxe collector's box, big box version of the game, which has got this retro USB cassette in there, which is kind of a nice shrink wrapped thing. So the whole game is kind of delivered on a cassette with a kind of little USB stick that kind of comes out.
Yes, it's not an actual cassette. You can't play.
It's not an actual cassette. You don't have to. Yeah.
It's a USB drive in the form of a cassette, which is really cool.
Yeah. We're porting it for ZX Spectrum and Commodore 64.
That would be fun if you could.
So we've got a big box version of the game which has got loads of stuff in it. It's going to have a comic, an art book, loads of other little bits and pieces in there, pin badges and things. So there's now another added reward which combines that with one of the other rewards, which is being able to appear as a pixel art version of yourself in the game. In kind of Lucy's got a photo album that you can flick through, and it's going to have all the Kickstarter backers in there as kind of a pixel art version of themselves. And I've combined those two into a bundle now, and it's got a discount on it at the moment. Are there still some available? Let me just check before I kind of plug it.
It would be actually cool because she looks to the photo album. It's like it's my family.
There are still 13 available. So you get to appear in the game, and you get the deluxe collector's box as well. And you get it if you do the bundle rather than doing having the two rewards, you save £45 as well. So that's
which is a lot. You could buy another game with that money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or multiple.
You're buying a saving. So that's where that is. So just go to Kickstarter and search for Lucy Dreaming, and
don't search. It's linked in the description. Jesus, what do you think this is? This is like amateur.
What are you doing on YouTube? Get off YouTube. You're wasting your time. There's nothing here for you.
Don't say that. No. So in the description below, you have links to the official website. You have links to the Kickstarter page, so you don't have to search for anything like that. There's just
it's all there for you.
Yeah, just keep this interview going. Just look in the description. There's links to Tall Story Games' Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. What else do you have? I don't remember. But there's all there.
We've got most of we've got a Discord server as well, which you can link to from our website. If you go to lucy-dreaming.com, all the kind of various social media links are on there as well. I'm guessing there's a link in the description.
Yes. Probably. Well, not to the Discord, to the official site, yes, but not to the Discord.
Brilliant. And if you want to kind of get in touch and just say hi, I'm usually on Twitter. That's kind of where I generally do most of my chatting and promoting and all that sort of thing. So I'm always quite happy to field questions or just sort of say hello on there.
And for people who haven't played the demo, where can they find that?
So the demo is available on Steam, and it's also, if you want a DRM-free version, that's available to download on itch as well. That's for Windows and Linux and Mac OS. And there's also a version in the the Google Play Store for Android as well. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to do it for iOS because I don't own a Mac, so I can't actually do the kind of the porting that I need to do. But if you've got an Android device, you can play it on there. And where else? No, that's and it's also on Game Jolt as well. I haven't been sort of promoting that, but if you use Game Jolt, all three versions, three platforms are available on there as well.
Okay, that's very cool. And one thing that helps, definitely wish this thing.
One more.
Yep.
It's also available on Fireflower Games as well, which is a kind of a new platform which was developed recently and is a sort of a more environmentally friendly kind of a way of buying games as well. So
okay, I'm gonna have to look into that because you know how environmental friendly is today is like we're buying carbon credits. It's like, what's that? Well, we pay, so we feel good about ourselves.
We'll offset it so that we can be
that's such bullcrap with that thing. It's like, okay, just use less energy. How about that? Like you want to help, use a lot less energy or something. I don't know, upgrade your server so they don't consume as much power. How about that? That would be useful. But depends on the. I mean, obviously, that companies who are more environmentally friendly, just you have to look into that usually because it's like Amazon's environmentally friendly. Yeah, they are. Sure they are.
Well, in our office here, all our electricity and gas and everything like that is all offset as well. So it's all carbon neutral. If that helps.
I mean, you know what? You're not gonna sell copies based on that, so you better make, I don't know, you better make a, I don't know.
Better make a good game.
Well, also you could do that, or to get more attention, you could make Lucy like some sort of environment, activist. Oh yes, yeah, a younger version of Greta Thunberg. She's not as creepy, but yeah.
Greta the game.
Yeah. Oh.
You know what? That's probably been pitched already. I bet someone somewhere is
probably, but she's too creepy to put into a game. Like children wouldn't want to play a game with Greta Thunberg because like, who's this? Wesley Adams. It's like no. She's a climate activist from Sweden. It's like she's definitely very smart and definitely not abused by her parents. She's normal. You're supposed to be like her. Like okay. Children I don't think would catch on to that. So it's more for the grown-ups to look at. Oh, look at the child. It's like okay, whatever. Like what do you want me to do? It's like you want me to pay more taxes because this child from Sweden says that? It's like okay, that makes sense. No,
I'm not getting caught up in this conversation.
It's fair enough. It's just it's fine. So anything else that you wanna say before we close off?
Is there anything I haven't said?
I know you're the notes. Like mentioned before, you're the notes.
Check my notes that I don't.
No, you're the notes. You don't have to check. Just go into your brain and see like
I'm the notes.
What haven't I said? Maybe I can find something that's exclusive.
Only say go and play the demo. Check out the Kickstarter. If you want to help support another indie adventure game, throw us a few coins and you'll get a copy as well. So just go and just check it out and see what you think.
Yeah, don't throw coins to your Witcher because Witchers are not true. So probably that person who's claiming to be a Witcher is lying to you. Just go to Kickstarter. Just see the link in the description below. Go to Lucy Dreaming's Kickstarter page. To get a copy is just like £12, which is like $15, something like that, or actually no, €15. So it's low cost. So it's not like a huge investment, and you have the demo out. You know that Tom is committed to this. I mean, he's made a bigger demo, and he released a smaller demo.
Yeah, I've already done it.
Yeah, exactly. So no, but it's true. It's like this. This is you proving that you are creating like a product and you have something already to show for it, right? You have a demo out. You have so that's, I think it's very important. It's really good that you released it, and just go ahead because I want to play it, and it shouldn't be that far. That's another great thing. You shouldn't be waiting like 17 years or Duke Nukem forever.
I'm hoping I won't be doing this when I'm 68 or whatever.
I mean, no, but I mean this project specifically, if you're doing the work, and you seem to be very efficient when it comes to this, because like a year ago you didn't have Lucid Dreaming, and now you have quite a lot, like in terms of the content from what you've told me. So it seems like you're doing really well with the workflow.
Our proposed sort of delivery date for it is kind of in 12 months time. So it's around kind of May 2022 is what we're aiming for. That for me seems realistic with the amount of gameplay that we're planning to produce. The other thing is one of the stretch goals that we've got. It's a bit of a way off at the moment. The one in sort of the top stretch goal we've got on there at the moment includes more game. So if we reach that point, then it might take me slightly longer to do it because it will be a longer game. But until that point, we're definitely working towards a kind of 12-month sort of turnaround for the game as well. So much.
And that's pretty fast for any game, really, any commercial game. Like something going that fast from conception to hopefully what's going to be a very successful release. That's it's great because it's
you shouldn't have to wait.
Especially for what? Sorry,
I said you shouldn't have to wait too long.
Well, especially with people investing, giving money, because it is to some extent investing, right? Although you don't get the specific return except for the game, but that's another thing. It's not a bad thing. I'm just saying it's a little different than investing. It's you wouldn't want to wait for too long. That's why I think it's great when developers not only have like a chunk made, right, like a specific. They're into halfway into development, something like that. So they've already done stuff. They already learned the tools and everything, right?
Yeah.
They've done the story and stuff like that. So it's not going to be like, oh yeah, in 3 years we're going to release it. Well, that's a freaking long time. I'm not saying that it's depending on the game, it might take that long, but I would be more encouraging of people who wait for longer, right, until they come out with Kickstarter campaigns, so they can show off more of the game, and it's not just sketches. Like I remember at the beginning of Kickstarter when there were like those huge Kickstarter that made like millions for games, like Richard Garriott's game that I don't think much came. I mean, it was released, but it didn't do that great. And people literally came in with just like sketches and based on their name, they're like, give me money. It's like, okay, great, maybe that worked at the beginning, but now you have to show something for it, and I think that's how it's supposed to be, and I think it's a very healthy thing.
It's been hard work getting to this point and kind of preparing for the Kickstarter. I've kind of said this to a couple of people, and it's kind of in jest, but as far as I'm concerned, the game development is going to be a lot easier mentally, at least, than preparing for the Kickstarter, because it's been very, very hard work and very stressful. Learning completely new. I'm not, like I said, I work in marketing anyway, but kind of just generally just getting everything ready for a business model that I have literally no experience with at all. I've never done this before. I've not seen an awful lot of people doing it. Only in the last 12 months have I even kind of been aware that this is a way of funding games, or even I can make games. So.
Well, it seems that you've picked up really fast because, technically, right, at this point in time, you're just over 1 week into the Kickstarter campaign, and you have a campaign, your first campaign for your first commercial game, and you've already passed the initial goal. So that to me is like success.
I am.
Yeah,
we are currently 106% funded, apparently, according to.
That's great. Yeah, it's and of course it's gonna pick up because it's also the last 48 hours is gonna be like probably huge, but it's.
I hope that's what I'm hoping for. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that at the very least the first stretch goal is gonna be reached, because that's, I think, not only that's a very important one. It's like I think people want, based on the demo, will want to have voiceover and all that because it works so well in the demo, and I think people would search for that. Will want.
I hope so. Yeah, it's been very well received. So I think there's a lot of support for that anyway. So I'm hoping we can. Yeah, we can reach that one.
She has an interesting voice. She's not too annoying. Not too biggery. Like not too just a witty child. That's good. You could. Well, I was going to say you could identify with her, but it's kind of weird to say that you can identify with a 10, 11-year-old girl. It's a little bit weird. We're not exactly the same in that You know. Anyway, thanks Tom for being here, and thanks
you.
for everyone who watched and who commented. I saw someone say that it may be that you'll have to do a Lucy 2. This is probably as to your comment about you know, after this what you're going to do if you think of making another game with that's, you know, that's more child friendly.
Never say never. You never know.
I mean, you know, it's she's gonna grow up. She's gonna have other problems. So who knows? I mean, it's gonna be like, why not? Lucy 2 is like when she's a, you know, she goes to college. Lucy goes to college. You know, Lucy 2.
Lucy's stressing. Yeah.
Well,
Lucy working.
I mean, that's a stress. That's definitely, you know, lockdown Lucy. Done. It's like
there you
go. she's gonna be like COVID 20. You know, 24 or something like that, and she has to deal with the lockdown in there. Yeah, why not? You know,
who wants to make a game about lockdown? That's never going to work.
I mean, they're making shows about it and TV shows and stuff, so it's, you know, it's a big shock. It's definitely a big shock to a lot of people's lives. So that impact stays with you. So even if even if it's a bad impact, you'll still gravitate towards, you know, towards it as an event, and maybe you want to see media based on it. So I quite like
was one of the things I quite liked about the lockdown game that we made is it kind of acts a bit like a time capsule. I know it's a made up story. It's very much of the time. I'll look back at it in 10 years time and kind of go, God, do you remember the trouble we had buying toilet roll? Or do you remember when we had to do that? I mean, do you remember the homeschooling? Or do you remember, you know, and just the idea, you know, of that having kind of being immortalized in point and click game form. I quite like that.
Yeah, it's, you know, and with Lockdown Lucy, the sequel to Lucy Dreaming, it's going to be even more.
So we combine the two games together.
No, it's going to be different. It's going to be different. I mean, she's going to be older. She's going to go to Wuhan to investigate the. That's awesome. She's going to go.
It's all figured out.
Are you kidding me? Like like all I need is one studio to hire me as a creative officer or whatever, like creative. And no, seriously, I could pop out like a billion games, no problem. Well, not exactly no problem. I'm not saying that all of them will be good, but story-wise, I have a lot of ideas. So that's not you know, coming up with ideas is not hard for me. It's like, you know, actually making stuff is hard.
Yeah.
You know, that's actually what's real with everyone. Everyone has ideas, you know. It's making something, and like you're gonna have a game in you know 1 year's time. So that's, you know, that's an achievement.
Yeah.
You know,
it's actually happening.
Yeah.
No getting around it now.
Well, it's like, yeah, after the Kickstarter, we'll be like, okay, so now I have to.
Like now I've actually got to do it. Before it was a hobby, now it's work.
Yeah.
Now I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, and your wife is gonna be like, you know, you're gonna try something else. I'm just gonna try something for like, it's an adventure game jam. I'm just try something for 2 weeks. I'm like, no, we have backers. We have backers who are waiting for this game. So you're gonna focus on that, and that's
it's bonus content. It's bonus content.
Yeah. Okay. So thanks for coming on for me, because you know I always want to do like stuff beforehand so people aren't bored or whatever. But you know what? If you want to support me, that would be great, because I want to, when Lucy Dreaming comes out, I actually still want to be around doing content. So if you want to do that, you know, subscribe, YouTube, BitChute, and of course the best way, yeah, exactly, in all in the description. And the best way, go to cryptichybrid.locals.com. You know, Tom is going there right now because he's never heard of locals.com. It's okay, he's gonna learn about it now. That's fine. That's fine. It's like, it's a Patreon-like system. You go there, you subscribe, and you can get lots of goodies and support all of my endeavors under the. Yeah, it's like Patreon, except it's not Patreon, so it's better because the people at Patreon are not that great. Because, you know, as always, it's, you know what, I didn't make them not great. It's like this is on them. This is their fault. No, it's really crap if you think about it. Like, they've had some really what?
Like, the people there are not great. But it's not my fault. I didn't make them not great.
Exactly. It's like, you know, I adore humans, and I also realize that humans matter. So if you can't interchange humans. So if you take one good human and you put him somewhere, he's going to do good things. And you put a person who's not as good, they're not going to do as good. That's basically the idea of everything. So that's why, you know, companies do good and worse. You get like cultures falling and whatever, and like rising. It's because people. So go there. It's $4 a month. It's like a magazine subscription. You get more than anywhere else. You get like early access to my videos. Like before I post gameplay videos, you get to see them first. You get one subscriber only live stream a month. You get to vote on polls as to what games I'm gonna play on specific live streams. So if you want me to play Fortnite for the first time, you can vote on that, and I can do that. If you want me to play Minecraft, whatever, I'll make it work. Whatever it is, it'll be funny, like to make me play Dark Souls.
Windows 2000 pinball.
I would play that, yes. If people go and vote for that, and I'll play for 2 hours, multiple times. In multiple days, I'll play pinball for 2 hours and talk, and everyone can see me playing pinball. And maybe I can get a high score. Who knows? I haven't played it in a while, so I'm a little bit rusty. But you also get behind the scenes where you can actually see my dog, my adorable, dog who's probably, weeing herself right now because it's already late.
Fair, I'm almost weeing myself right now because
okay, so sorry,
3 hours in.
That's fair. We're gonna go. Thank you so much for your time, Tom. And again, everyone, go check out Lucid Dreaming because it looks great. The demo is really fun, and who doesn't need more point-and-click adventure games? This awesome, and it really sets itself apart from all the others in terms of the story and also the visuals, but also the story. I really like this play on dreams. It's something that hasn't really been tried that much, and it seems like Tom has a pretty good idea of what he wants to do, and I look forward to it, and hopefully you'll support him as well. I'm going to be one of the Kickstarter backers too, because it's what I do, and yeah, check it out. Thanks again everyone for watching. Thank you, Tom, and just take us off. Last words.
What?
Yours.
What?
Just finish.
Bye.
Whatever. That's it. Bye.
Thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe.
I was sure. Thank you, but I was thinking more about yours. Okay, go back to Lucid Dreaming.